Rohi, do you remember me from TOB?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I remember we were at this retreat in Loomis and they put me on bass. Do you remember?
That I do not. No.
You don't remember? Because
No.
I kept handing you the bass because I sucked at bass. And you kind of saved my life. And I remember like at the end of it, you just wanted to be with your girlfriend and you're like, just take the bass, man. You got it. You got it. You're fighting just one string at a time. You don't have to be fancy. I'm all like, okay, all nervous. But that was my first memory of you was back then. Is your wife's name's
Kayla?
Kayla.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And how long have you been married then?
I think we're going on 14 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, marriage, man. It's hey, did any of the TOB stuff stick or help you guys out like while dating and
so I mean that was I won't say TOB is my entrance into the church, but that was something that having getting more involved definitely stuck. The topics were, I would say, a bit more challenging because again, trying to talk to youth in this day and age about like sexuality and what not to do, and and then having to admit that we all struggle with the same challenges,
right?
But I would say definitely it plays out. I mean we're a faithful marriage, so it's one of those things where we practice as much as we can, and then we look back at TOB sometimes and we're like, yeah, I remember we used to talk about that topic.
Yeah, so, it was going to come up sooner or later. Yeah. TOB is so cool. I mean, unfortunately, I haven't been able to have a relationship with this whole TOB teachings, even though I was in charge of it for 8 years. Super funny. Because my story is I was going to church and I was going to all the youth groups, Spanish and English, 7 days a week, just sitting around in confirmation, like, I'm here to help, And then I meet a girl and I'm all like, oh, she's awesome. And then, relationship stuff happens. And I'm like, oh, I like this a lot better than church stuff. So I kind of just left everything out the window. It was so funny because I was so devoted to everything. But the moment a specific temptation came in, I'm like, everything's out the window. I was so weak. Yeah.
And I mean, in TOB was like the second. I mean, we had a live team, which started off, and live team, I don't know if you remember that in the church. That was pre TOB basically. And I mean, that was my tiptoeing into like the youth groups and like, the retreats and all this kind of craziness that goes on along that. And I would say that's probably, really when the ministry kind of started for me, like getting involved in the church. So.
How old were you at the time?
That time, I think I was just 21.
21?
Yeah.
Dude, you look the same from that day till now.
I try.
Yeah, man.
A little more gray.
A little bit, man, but it looks good. It looks good on us, When I get to you,
more distinguished, as they say.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
like a good wine.
Exactly.
Were you immediately in the music?
No, so that's always been, especially like now with taking over the choir.
Yeah.
I've been trying to like bring more people in, and everybody's always timid. They're like, oh, I'm scared. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm not that great. And my ministry, like when I came with Life Team, like I had played the guitar like on my own for probably like about 9 years at that point.
Yeah.
It wasn't a boy band, all that good stuff,
Nice.
But
are you one of those guys in that reel where like they're dancing in front of a mirror?
Oh yeah.
And you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Oh man, throwback.
So when I got into Life Team, that was the first thing. Like, Shelly Spencer, she came in and they're like, "Hey, we need somebody to play music, guitar." And I was like, "I don't play guitar. Well, play guitar and sing." And I'm like, "I don't sing." Like, I tried singing in our little boy band, and I was like, scratchy, kind of bad.
Sit in the back.
And I remember like when we started with especially TOB, like it was a little bit whole new group of people.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I'm struggling to like strum and sing and remember the songs and like where we at, and kind of trying to stay prayerful. But as faith would it's like understanding it's not about me. It wasn't about trying to be a band or get famous or anything. It was like, look, if I can like lead somebody like yourself closer and through the music, and music has that power.
Yeah.
I felt like that's what grew me over the last couple of years. And then now with kind of, losing my bandmate of 20 years, and him moving on, I know everybody at first is like, hey, like, it's going to be okay. Like, we're going to keep doing this. And it's like, no, we're going to keep this going. It may change a little bit, but I will say in the last couple of weeks, definitely felt even stronger calling of like wanting to be more, I guess, more of what we do. Like, I mean, I've heard more people in the last couple of weeks coming in the public and be like, hey, I hear you in choir. I love what you guys are doing.
That's awesome.
And it is. I mean, that's the kind of stuff where you take it back to the choir and you're like, look, we're making a difference.
Yeah. Sometimes we need that reassurance. Like God is sometimes really gentle with us where like, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? And then people come, they're like, hey, it sounds great. Keep it up. It's like, thank you, God.
Yeah.
If we're wise enough to realize that that's God answering our prayers, instead of like, oh, thank you, but God, I still suck.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good, man. I haven't been to the 10 a.m. mass in a while. I'm 11:30 and 5:30.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my choice. My kid, she controls me. So I'm just like, yeah, whichever works best for you. Once in a while, we'll go 10 a.m. if there's something going on at 11 and at 5. But I've always enjoyed going to that mass. I think, I don't know his name, the guy that retired.
Jim Bryan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had the 12-string guitar.
Mm-hmm.
It sounded so nice, man. Do you have it?
I do not. No, he did.
All right. So guys, go to the 11:30 mass. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm sorry. Like you're like, why am I in here? No, but yeah, I that mass always kind of stuck to me too. Like that band. The each music team brings its own thing to the table.
Correct. Yeah.
And but that's good, man. And you feel confident?
I do. And I mean, like, so, being like Palm Sundays next week.
Oh yeah.
So I was like going over with my wife how like I was trying to get some of the songs ahead of time. And I will say in the last 20 years, even having gone to church all this time, like the entrance songs that were chosen. So one of the songs is, it's basically the song that, Jesus, we're going to be ushering him in,
right.
The whole parade. And it's kind of like, if I could have it my way, like I can hear the drums and I can hear like this whole procession and get like the whole choir, like getting into it. I know it's not going to happen, but like, and then the closing song is like, okay, now we've just killed him off and we're sending him off to be buried, and it's the one mass that you can feel that whole, like, we're excited. And then, dude, we just like killed him off, and I felt like a lot of like, oh my gosh, like I got to make this Sunday like really special.
Yeah. I honestly, this is the first time I've ever heard that.
Yeah.
On Palm Sunday, or this is the first time I paid attention.
Yeah.
To someone explaining this for Palm Sunday.
Yeah.
It's wow, dude.
Yeah. It's going to be an emotional roller coaster. So.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, what's occurring is definitely an emotional roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
I'm currently in the mood where I'm a little upset with God over some things. And it's funny because that you mentioned that, because like typically I'm like, praise God and thanks be to God. And then something doesn't go my way, or, he throws a curveball, just be like, you asked for these virtues. Let's see if you can handle it. And I just completely fold up. I'm like, God, where are you? You've abandoned me. And man, I can't wait.
Yeah,
for this Palm Sunday. Unfortunately, I'm going to be in LA.
I'll stream it live for you. Don't worry.
Thank you. Yeah, take one of our cameras. Man, and did you always grow up in the church?
I did not. So I mean, kind of off and on. I mean, we were going to St. Joachim's, but like I said, late teens, early 20s, I got pulled in pretty strong. And that's when I got involved in the choir, and then I started, like yourself, kind of joining a youth group.
Yeah.
And I think if music hadn't pulled me in, I probably wouldn't have gotten, as far as I did. Like I'm not kind of the sideline guy that's kind of like, hey, I'm there every week to kind of just be a cheerleader. Like, I kind of want to be in it. So
yeah. We got that, man.
Yeah.
We got to be part of the show, or there is no show.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I mean, thank you for watching.
This is my camera, right? Like, I don't share with no one.
Absolutely not. I don't share with no one. You share with all my. Oh gosh, it's gonna humble us so good. How's your Lent going?
It's going. I mean, and that's, like I said, like that's where, when I was thinking back, like, okay, Lent's tough for me in the music side, because it's like our church is unfortunately one of the churches that are fortunate, how you want to say it, I guess, where traditionally Lent, they go from allowing whatever we want instrumentally to one. And the priests have always described it as, we want to have, again, imagine the feeling like I was talking about for next week. We want to have this feeling of like, here's normal Sunday, and then here's Lent. And we want to humble everyone and bring them down because, Easter, we want to have now this revamping, music strong, because now we're joyful again, so it's tough because it's like, okay, well, now one instrument, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But we make do.
Because you guys have a bass and 2 guitars?
Me guitarist now. We got the bass and the piano. Trying to recruit more. So if you know anybody that's would like to join, that attends the 10 o'clock.
Oh yeah. Anybody here that attends the 10 o'clock? Rohi says he'll buy you breakfast afterwards.
We talk. I can negotiate contracts here.
Yeah, there was a drummer at one point, or was that a different?
That wasn't ours. Yeah, that was. And that's again the beauty of our church, of like each mass had, because of its choir, it pulled certain people. Like there were the youth masses. There were just the cantor masses, and it's kind of good that there wasn't like I did every mass or like one person kind of dominated, because it would just. People they want something different.
Yeah. And then people get burned out too.
They do. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. I was asked a couple times to be a Eucharistic minister. And for the longest time, I'm all like, no, like everybody's taller than me. It's going to be awkward, just reaching up. Yeah, just flee. No, but I did think about it. I did sign up for a couple masses, and then I felt so bad last minute. I'm all like, you know what? My place is being next to my daughter in mass and making sure that she's paying attention, and her making sure that I'm paying attention, you know? But it's difficult. I do feel that calling to want to serve, but sometimes we got to really discern, like, God, where do you want me to be during mass? And, but yeah, definitely if you have that call to music and you want to serve, hit Rohi up. He's got openings. I know all the masses will probably welcome it, because a lot of them are kind of short. Yeah. But thank you so much for what you do.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah. And cool, man. Is your whole family Catholic too? Like, were you brought up Catholic? Okay, because I've only seen you. Do you have siblings?
My sister doesn't live here, but just me and my sister. So
I see.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to bring this up. I don't know how, but you own the Zach Guns?
Yeah, the gun store. Yeah.
Let me tell you about this one time. I tried to go shooting. It was me. There's this buddy that I have. His name's Kevin. He was on episode 3 or something. Okay. He's a Marine, but he was young at the time, like 2019. Okay. That he came back. And he's like, let's go shooting guns. I'm like, great. I've never shot guns before. Or I did once, but everybody did everything for me. Everybody was just like,
loaded here,
shoot, And I'm like, cool. But I'm like, yeah. So we invited 2 other guys, and they were also pretty young, 20. And when we got there, we're all like, yeah, we want that and that, and we're going to get this. And the guy's like, whoa. Do you know how to handle a gun? I'm all like, yeah, sure. And my buddy, he was standing next to me. He gave me a fake dummy gun, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, all right, you're going to show me how to put in a bullet and then clip it and then cock it. So, yeah. So my buddy, he's all like, okay, so like press the button to release the thing and then put the bullet on it, just put it. And he was trying to whisper, but the guy was looking right at us, right? We're trying to be slick.
Yeah.
I got everything. Great. And then when I go to cock the gun, I pointed at the guy and I'm just like, he's like, yeah, no. I'm like, oh, wait. And he's like, it's too late. And I'm like, oh, so we got kicked out. And I feel really bad about that. And no, and dude, it got worse. We're like, screw it, we're gonna go to another gun place now that I know. Like, you talked me through it. Everywhere we went, they were closed, or it was more like you bring your own guns.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, we don't have our own guns, so let's go. We went to go to like a little racetrack thing. It was packed. And then we went to like this other thing that he looked up. It was for like 5-year-olds. We're like, no. So we just watched a horrible movie and we just like called it. No, well, we got tanked afterwards to just like. But do you get a lot of? Well, I've always been curious because at least in the Hispanic community, in my Hispanic community, it's very one-sided on guns, like one side or the other side. Not one-sided, very split. Mm-hmm. You know, some don't want it in their homes and some do. What are your thoughts on
that? I mean, what we do see. So I always hate to use the COVID word, but that time period brought in a huge transition of people that for the first time had to understand a self-reliance, like this idea of like, oh my gosh, like my neighbor maybe like ransacking my house, even though it's far, and like looking back, it's like kind of hysterical. But so that was one of the first times you would see, I mean, people like yourself, like people who are just like, I don't even know what a gun is. I've been anti-gun this whole time.
Yeah,
I need a gun. I remember like that. It was like middle of March, into March. It was the first time that like there was like the lines at our store, like the panic. And I remember this lady coming in, and I saw her. I just opened the store and like I looked in her car, and like car is like loaded with like supplies, and she like looks at me with this panic, and she's like, "I need a gun, like right now." Whoa. And like it was good because it's an educational piece, because people think like, oh yeah, you just do this, that, and you just walk out with it, and it's like no.
Oh yeah, like clearly, have you seen me
test? Like there's just like there's a waiting period. She's like, waiting period, like I gotta wait to get this thing. Like, oh yeah, there's a background check, So I think that time period was definitely where you saw again that those homes that were traditionally like, no, we're not even thinking about a gun, go like, honey, I think we need a gun. Yeah. Like the wife was like the one nudging and saying like, yeah, you got the green light, come go get that thing.
She's like, you're not a fighter.
Yeah.
You can't protect us. Go get a gun.
Yeah. A little weak, you need a little help, The beauty of that is what you saw in the next couple of years after that was where the real divide became about the people who stuck with it. So meaning that they didn't like, because some people literally bought the gun, stuck it on a shelf, nothing happened. It's still there. And now they're coming back literally to sell it to us brand new in the box. And then you have the other people that got into the sport, got training, maybe got their CCW, bought their second gun, maybe their third gun by now, and have started that transition of now like, hey, how do I get my kids shooting? And it's revitalizing a lot of that, like, the industry, but also the fear. Because like you said, I mean, the majority of people, it's like, if you ask them, well, why are you so anti-gun? Oh, my cousin, he got shot, or, somebody, it's like they have a direct relation of like.
Oh, and also how the news portrays it when like there's these tragedies throughout the country,
Yeah.
So, man. Yeah, because it's not that I was anti-gun. I was just kind of like, man, I got these guns. No, I was always intrigued by it, but always too scared to like start, the process of learning on how to use it. And then I realized like a lot of people don't know. Mm-hmm. And it was my fear of like, everybody knows I'm gonna look so dumb. I'm gonna put a bullet here and cockpit gun at a guy. You can't get over that, man. Yeah. I was so embarrassed that day. But yeah, I've been definitely searching in the market, but I guess like finances at the moment. I'm trying to start up I don't know if you knew, I'm starting to start up this podcast, and microphones and cameras cost a lot, and I don't have enough subscribers. I see, why are there more numbers of views but less subscribers? If you want me to get a gun, like and subscribe. Yeah. If you want, and then if you want me to throw away that gun, like and subscribe, comment and share. Yeah. Oh man, that's cool. And are you the only gun shop here in Madera?
Yeah, so that's been the other transition. I opened up 12 years ago. There was like 5 or 6 gun shops in town, and I'm the lone survivor now.
Wow.
As far as in town, there's one last one out 41, but I'm it.
Wow, that's good, man. For business,
it's not
right?
Good, no.
So, I would think for business it would be good.
You know what? That's always the fun conversation. With the gun market is we're a very low margin market, and that's why I always tell people like, okay, they're like, hey, I'm going to open a gun store. I'm like, I'll help you. I will get you started because, there's not going to be a gun store you're going to pull up to where there's like a Porsche in the driveway. Like it does not happen.
Oh, dude, I already got a Honda.
Yeah.
Like, what are we waiting? Yeah, Let's pull the trigger.
Yeah. So it just, a lot of guys will just say it's regulation, but it's about money. Like the time spent and everything that goes into like that one sale.
Yeah.
At the end of the day to maybe make like $50.
Yeah. It's a lot of effort for,
a lot of effort, a lot of responsibility, a lot of liability,
Do you guys get like, how much responsibility would be the gun shops in a situation?
So for instance, like when this last incident happened, the Walgreens, one of the first things is like, we got the name and I'm like searching like, crap, did I sell this guy a gun? Wow. the one that did it. Now I did sell the guy who unfortunately passed. I mean, he was just a recent customer. That was a shock to us. But yeah, it'd be one of those things where if I had sold, for instance, the shooter the gun, I would probably see a lot more 3-letter agencies at my door wanting to know, like, why did we question him? Especially with the initial, looking at it where he may be of mental concern. Yeah. A lot of those questions will come up and be like, were the signs there? Why did you sell this guy a gun?
Wow.
And then obviously, the family has the right at that point, if we had, to possibly come sue us, and that could have been it. That could have been like doors closed right there.
That sucks, man.
Yeah.
So you guys have, how do you guys do a mental evaluation, or do you guys?
And that's really the hard part. So like, let's say you came in. Right. Diego, you're kind of weird, right? Yeah. Like.
Right on the head.
Right? No arguments here, but
no, I know. I think you get it. It's supposed to be like the employees are supposed to be kind of trained through like questioning, like just basic stuff, like, hey, Diego, what are you looking for? I want a gun. Oh, well, what do you want it for?
My neighbors pissed me off.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the obvious. Like that's the clear. Like, all right, sir, we can't sell you a gun. But we've had some people like where they just kind of look a little spacey, and you're just like, you're trying to ask questions because we want to get to that point where we're kind of like, I don't really think this is, the right person.
Is this a normal conversation that we're having?
I would thankfully say it's not normal. The public is not crazy in general. I don't want to say every gun person is a crazy person, but there's, always the possibility. So it's in the back of your mind. You're always kind of like looking at that person.
Yeah.
Like, what do you really want this for? And again, coming out of COVID, it was tough because it was like, people were just like, I want a gun. Like, I don't know why. I need a gun. Where today it's kind of like, it's fun. I want to everybody's getting into it. I want to go shooting. Yeah. Everybody's got a gun.
Everybody on YouTube's doing it. So I gotta, for the fans. Yeah. Man, that's crazy because as sure as you can feel, I imagine that every transaction, there's a little piece of you like, what if I missed it?
Yeah. And lately, what's really out of your control that we're running into is the amount of gun thefts. So, like I sell you the gun, I've done everything, Diego, you're responsible, but then you leave it on your desk, some guy rips it off, and now it's on the street. And it's understanding that, like, it's your fault. You were the irresponsible person. Yeah. But to some degree, I always feel this little bit of guilt of like, well, should I have been a little bit more active about like, hey, you need the gun safe, you need to lock it to the ground, you need to be more proactive about that. Yeah. Because again, that's the stuff that we get notifications when those things kind of pop up, like the gun has been stolen, now it's been recovered by a law enforcement agency. There's a whole process that ATF goes through to verify, like, oh, it was in fact Diego's gun that we found.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I not that I hung out with them. It's just at work. At a certain job that I had, I was in charge of helping a lot of community service people, and a lot of them were in gangs, and a lot of them try to sell me stuff from drugs to guns. And they would always be like, oh yeah, it's hot. I'll be like, did you just shoot it? And they're like, no, it's stolen. I'm like, oh, like, no, I don't want it, man. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Cause I don't want to get caught with a stolen gun. Cause I just showed my interest and I like hearing their stories, but it's pretty common, huh?
Yeah. And that's kind of where the lawmakers have been really kind of aggressive on like the polymer 80s or these 80% firearms, because it's not the gun stolen anymore. Like they're literally just buying the parts they can buy from the store and then just making it themselves, So that theft aspect is kind of thrown out the window.
So if I were to buy pieces of a gun and I created my own, can I get it registered?
Yeah, there is a whole long process, which most people, or I would say probably zero do.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if it wasn't so long,
Question.
Use the mic.
I can hear.
Oh, my bad.
Would that be similar to like how people are worried about 3D printing guns now as well?
Ooh.
Yeah, so that's actually Cody Wilson, who was the one that kind of threw that whole like movement into action. It's kind of misleading because Cody Wilson basically took a commercial 3D printer. We're not talking about your little Prusa that you find in for a couple $100. This was like a $200,000 printer that could do something of commercial quality, right? And his whole movement essentially was to kind of show like how easy it is. Like, I mean, really, it's not terribly difficult to 3D print a gun. The problem is the news took that spin and was like, oh, anybody with a 3D printer could make one. And it was like literally all the videos were just like, okay, the stuff he was making would fall apart in like 2 shots. Okay. So it wasn't really like practical in the sense of like a mass shooting or gangs or anything like that. It was just more the fear of like anybody could make this in their backyard.
Yeah.
So the reality is that, is it possible? Yeah. I mean, that movement has grown dramatically. But it's an enthusiast thing. I mean, you could do that with any kind of industry and say,
that's true.
I don't want to buy my alcohol from the store anymore. Okay. Well, there's probably 1,000 people on YouTube that'll tell you how to make that liquor right now in your basement. And it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly illegal. The difference with any of these industries, it's the aspect of when you say, well, how do I make money from that? And that's where you get to anybody's, the black market is like, okay, I'm making enough of this. It's good. I shared it with you. You're like, hey, I'll give you $5 for some of that. Okay. Yeah. I'll give you 10 more bucks. Can you make me something for my buddies? And it's the same thing with the gun industry. It's people who are making it, they're enjoying it, but then it's like, hey, how can I make $1 off of this?
Yeah. Everything that we do. I bought a camera just so I can, vlog my life and let me know. Just kidding.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I'm not making any money. Like and subscribe, guys.
It's called a tax deduction.
Yeah, that's it, man. Oh yeah, congratulations! How long have you been a council member for?
Oh my gosh, 2 months now. I think
2 months, man.
Yeah.
So what made you?
I was waiting for this hard question.
Really? Because Cece's all like, I got Rohi in.
You know what? It's tough because of the way it came about. It was like everybody wants to know the backdoor deals and like what was going on. It's like, it was really, I mean, I've been on planning for a few years. And before that, I served on beautification, which is not the most exciting council or commission, but
cool, man.
It's cool. You got to pick flowers.
It's fabulous.
But, planning was something that, I was asked to do and I kind of got into it. And just like I told you with like music, it's like I get into it, I'm going to get into it. Like I'm going to start. Yeah. I'm not just there just to do it, and I took a big interest in it. And when this city council thing kind of came about, it was like, encouraged again. And it was kind of, enough people thought it was, they thought I was the right person for the job.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I hate to be a complainer because I always felt like I didn't need to do it because things were going right, and so it's more of just making sure that that gap was filled so that kind of would continue.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what got me in there.
Oh man. And I know this is like apples to oranges, but that's what happened when Shelly passed the baton to me on TOB. I'm like, do you know who I am? Like, you don't, no, we need to go have a cup of coffee before we do this. And it's something that I was just like, I don't know, like, am I fit for this? At one point, like my ego went up. I'm like, God, are you calling me for this? And then she was like, no, it's because you're the only other adult that shows up. So like, can you take over? I've been doing this for 14 years.
Yeah.
But kind of same thing where it's just like you filled a need, I guess you can say.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's the one aspect that I was trying to be strong about and I still feel strong about. I'm one of the only business owners that sits on that council.
Yeah.
I mean, again, the majority of our council is employees. I mean, government employees that matter. I mean, Cece being a teacher, some of the other 2 working for the city of Fresno,
right.
And then you got 2 that are retired. So that's, and I think you're going to see some of that coming in the probably near future of things. But when I tell people about like these last major decisions we had to make, it was business minded. It's trying to say, look, the city is a business. And how do we take a business approach? And it's not about, hey, I'm here to save the whales, but you have to run a business.
Are you Doge for the city of Madera?
100%. So it's funny because it's like prior to this, I mean, we were hardcore about like Parks and Rec, that was like our
community.
Well, no, the TV show.
Oh yeah, it's just fun.
Yeah. So I always. I'm the Ron. Like I'm sitting there going like, dude, government is a total waste. Like cut it out, like cut the spending.
We don't need it.
Yeah. So it's tough because there's a part of me that struggles with the efficiency of government. I mean, I don't think that's ever going to be two words that go together, efficiency and government. But there's a balance, because you can't just cut everybody and have that one person that's doing all the work, you know? So I think it's more of the gentle nudge. And I don't think Madera is in a position where we say like we're over bloated or we got like, you know, too much of this, so we need to cut it. I think other cities are facing that right now. Fresno. You know.
Yeah. One thing with Cece, when Cece was here, is I couldn't tell that like whether it was good or bad. I just realized like, oh, graffiti did stop all of a sudden, or like I don't see that many gangs anymore. You know? And it's just things that we don't.
Yeah.
They are?
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing that resurgence of 15 to 18-year-olds, I would say, that are back into the fights and the tagging, you know, so that's coming back hard.
Oh man, I thought we got them with the screens, but oh well.
Yeah.
But usually a city doesn't say anything or notice until something bad happens, and then all of a sudden people get involved. I guess the people more in the know are the people that work in the city and are closer, in my opinion, because Alex was the one that got me into, that was the first council meeting I went to, and I went to the end and I had no idea what happened. But I was like, oh yeah, it's really interesting, you know? And I noticed there's a lot of empty seats.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I don't remember, you know, when with Knights of Columbus, you know, transition to some of that was kind of that. I feel like the same almost issue of like Knights was about those old guys. They were just getting together and they're hanging out, and then all of them died off, and it's kind of like, hey, we don't have a group anymore. Yeah. And I feel like that's where people like yourself, you know, city council is not going to be a fun meeting where you're like, hey, let's go to city council, right? Yeah. But until you guys, your generation kind of gets in and just kind of understands like, what's the process, what's going on, like who are these people, what are we voting on, you know? It's going to give a lot more direction to where some of this goes, because that's unfortunately the part of the audience. Like as council, when you guys come up and you speak during that public comment, that's supposed to kind of weigh a little bit in some of our decision, right? Because if we don't hear anybody on the decision, we're like, okay, everybody in this community is in favor of it, we're going to sign off on it. But if all of a sudden there's a room full of people like, no, we don't want this, there is going to be some weight to that, you know? But yeah, in general, unless it's like super like major critical, there's the 5 people.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Well, thank you, because somebody's got to do it. That looks really boring. No, I'm kidding.
You're the popcorn machine in the back. You know?
Yeah, man.
So with regard to that, I know it's not going to be very all at but what do you think the city council can do in terms of informing the public, making the information more readily available to the public?
So what Alex asked was, what can the city council do to make the information more available to the public?
More
readily available.
I'd hate to say that it's for somebody who wants it. Like if you're active, it's there. It's there. You know what I mean? I think it's the part of the engagement of like, again, okay, why would you tomorrow show up to one of our meetings? You know what I mean? Because I mean, for the most part, we're voting on kind of vanilla stuff. I mean, we're approving a budget, or we're approving this. It's not the average thing somebody's going to dive into unless you happen to be like a finance guy. You're like, yeah, dude, I just really like finance. I want to see what the numbers look like on the city of Madera. There's not a whole lot of that, you know what I mean? And typically, if you were, that's the other thing that I would say, is one of the things that's been coming out of these last meetings is we're, a lot of our city council, we're trying to fill these commissions. So city has a ton of these little, commissions that are little micro, basically groups that focus on certain things like the airports and parks and all these things. And there's a lot of vacancies because unfortunately they're positions that you serve on that are unpaid, thanked, but those are kind of like the things when you say like, how do I get involved, or how do I, start making maybe a change to some degree? I would say somebody like that would be more effective at joining one of those commissions because again, you can be on more than one of those, and you can pick something that's of interest. So like you might say like, yeah, dude, I'm really into aviation. Okay, well, get on the airport commission. You can have some guidance about how our local airport is going, the direction it's going, decisions that are being made to it, and those decisions are what bubbles up to us and gets basically to our meetings to say like, hey, the airport commission, reviewed this and they're recommending doing this certain thing. And we go, okay, if that's what you guys think is best, we're going to do that, you know.
And you said there's a lot of vacancies?
Yeah.
For a lot of positions?
Yeah. Especially with this last transition of administration, you know, there's always been, again, a tendency of having vacancies. I know you're you know, really watching these meetings like a hawk, but that was one of the things that came out is there's a lot of people that have been appointed that don't even show up. So, I mean, even though it may be, there's a person's name there.
Yeah. Like when I was a Eucharistic minister and I didn't show up.
Exactly. So there's a little bit of a push right now. The hot ticket is to kind of fill some of the seats with more active participation. So,
understood.
Yeah,
man, I like that. But like how Alex says, like how do we get it out there? Is the social media pretty big for Madera?
I don't think like the city as a whole. No, I mean like.
Because the biggest social medias in Madera are like the taco trucks.
Yeah.
Like we should
Madera Uncensored. Yeah, that's
Madera Uncensored too.
Yeah.
That guy's a little biased though, in my opinion. If you don't like that, post me on Madera Uncensored.
Yeah, but yeah, I think again because it goes to there's a lot going on, and I feel like if you were watching a page like that, it would just be like every 5 seconds, like you'd be just getting hit with, hey, there's this and hey, there's that. So I think again, in a micro scale, like there are like you'd have to probably follow a few different groups to kind of get the gist of what's going on. But always when you come back to that as a again when you look at it as a business, just like a real business, if you said, hey, how do I increase my social platform? It's called money, right? Mm-hmm. You're gonna have to spend money on ads. You're gonna have a person dedicated to that. Like and you know, money right now is not the topic to be thrown around because most cities are facing financial issues. So
that's why I took a page from St. Joachim's and I get volunteers to help me out. Thank you, Alex. And it's hard, man. Like when I wanted to just start like a simple podcast, like the whole editing process, I'm like, I don't even own a camera. Like, and I want to start this, but like how you said, money, if you want to put yourself out there.
But imagine the business aspects. Now that you got that topic, imagine a city having a YouTube channel that has enough followers and subscribers that it makes money.
Yeah. And that's what I told them. If you guys stick with me, if we make it big, I'll give you a small cut.
Well, I mean, City of Madera's got 60,000 residents. There's your subscribers right there.
Yeah.
You know, so
we'll see.
We'll see. We need people like you.
Like me?
So piggyback off that.
Yeah.
Does the city of Madera have a dedicated social media person or no?
Again, as a city, I don't believe necessarily like that. I mean, I know there's somebody that does the graphics and to that aspect, but I don't think there's necessarily the city of Madera like Instagram and then it's this person that's you know really kind of running it. But if you go like to the police department, they got their own. Like you're gonna have like certain agencies that probably have that person that's running that.
Yeah, they should do like firemen versus police officers rugby games.
I'm wanting to do that on the 4th of July.
Yeah, that'd be fun. And then free hot dogs for everyone or something like that. Something simple and cheap.
Yeah.
So I did find an official Instagram of Madera, California. They have a grand total of 5 posts.
Whoa, dude, we only have 4.
From October 16th of last year.
Yeah.
And it's got a whopping 350 followers.
It's better than us. My only subscribers are my guests, so thank you.
Yeah, it's okay. We're gonna blow that up. Don't worry. You're gonna see some numbers there.
Yeah, I need to get. Never mind. I'm not gonna say what else I was gonna say. So all these things that you do, being a businessman, now being part of the council, family man, and everything. How important is your relationship with God in everything that you do?
It's a lot, because that was one of the discussions going into city council was talking about time and time management and where that's going to go. And that's kind of where I know with most people, like especially like my customers and stuff, when they found out I was on it, they're like, how are you going to do that? Like, how are you juggling even more? And it was kind of looking at how the puzzle and the pieces are going to come together.
Yeah.
Like I'm still going to have my Sunday. I'm still going to have my time with my family. I'm still coming home at night. Is there a struggle? Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you also do the robotics thing at the fair every year?
Yeah. If you want to go down the list, I mean, I can surprise you about how much I'm involved in, but but it's time management, and I try to teach that to other people as well. As like, I mean, just like tonight, like, okay, how did I make tonight happen? Well, it's about, okay, this is the time it happens. It's going to do it. You shift something else to a different time.
Yeah.
And again, like city councils, it's 3 Wednesdays a month. It's 6 to kind of when we got it there, maybe 10 midnight. But that's my Wednesday now. Like I've kind of blocked out that Wednesday. So it does, I would say, put a toll on the family.
Yeah.
But I think I want to say it's like an artist, but it's understanding that if it's for the better, like I still believe that by being here, by even in this podcast, by being in the city council, if it's moving the goalpost forward, whether it be for myself, whether it be for the city of Madera, whether it means I'm doing something maybe to help somebody else in this community, then that's what I'm there for. I mean, I've been a huge part of the community since I've been a kid, because that's how I was raised. And that was some of my talking points about city council was, I'm not here like you would see some of these politicians. They're like, hey, I do all this work and it's just photo ops of them like doing community service. Like, no, I've been out there doing that community service. I do that on a regular. I would do it even if I wasn't on city council. And I think people in the community have grown to respect that part of me.
Yeah, for sure.
That it's just, I'm doing it to do it. And if I don't, I always feel like, well, I don't think anybody else is going to do it.
Yeah. And you're not scared to get your hands dirty.
Oh, heck no.
Like, yeah.
No, I like it.
Yeah. Do you want to just sit down?
No.
I'm just kidding.
Are we pausing?
Anyways, with the whole you becoming council member, I know that they didn't have an election, a special election for that.
Yeah.
To fill the vacant seat. How was that process? And like, did you kind of see it coming, or is it just like, hey, by the way, I'm putting you up for this seat?
So when it came about, I knew that there was going to be myself and another person. And again, the platform I was trying to bring about, because again, it was an appointment process. So that means you have to get those sitting in council to approve either me or him. And what I was trying to bring about was, for one, both of us were, I think, equally qualified. And that was kind of like the behind the scenes that a lot of people didn't see is him and I were meeting, we were talking, we were like, look, what's going to be the best for this? At the end of the day, he was gracious enough to kind of allow me to take a step forward and take that position. But what people don't realize in our community, that was one of the first times that had ever happened. That generally our council is like so ingrained in a battlefield of like, there's them and there's these people and we're not coming together. Wow. That to finally see that kind of happen is again what I've been trying to be this driving force of like, look, we don't have to be at each other's throats. We can move this forward. And some of that is, it's not to necessarily pick at anyone individually, but it's just to say as a whole, as that group that's up there, the community wants us to come together. And there's been, unfortunately, some of that bickering back and forth for years now that in the public's eye, it's like, that's not the place for that. Do that on your own. Up here, we're here to do work.
Do you think that has something to do with the age gap between?
No. I mean, I think, you can Google it since you're the Googler, but the idea or the term of politics is essentially just this grander idea of like, hey, look, we need these bottles in our community. But at the end of the day, you're like, I don't like you, so I'm just not going to vote for it.
Wow.
That's politics. Yeah. At its core. Or knowing that like, maybe I want these bottles because secretly I'm getting 2 cents every time we sell one of these bottles.
Yeah.
That's politics. And that's unfortunately what Googling it. That's at the end of the day, what's always kind of running through your head is like, okay, hey, there's this group, they're making this movement, they want to approve this certain item. And you're thinking, and they're like, you get this whole story, like, hey, it's great for the community and this is why we need it. And then like, you can go like, look at some of these older issues and you come to find out like, yeah, somebody really made a bunch of money off of that. Somebody really benefited from this. And you go like, well, do I like that? Would I do that again? Yeah. But it's politics because
that's scary, man. And every move that you make, I imagine someone has in the back of their head or vocally like, oh, well, he's going to gain something out of this. Yeah. That's why he's pushing that.
Yeah.
And it's pretty sad. And I guess that kind of goes back to the question I asked about like, how your faith life is and involved in everything. Do you think faith should come into politics as well, or is it something that it's better to just keep them separate and respect everybody?
So I'll talk as best I can to this topic, but
sure.
If we go back to the founding fathers, okay, and the idea of what America was supposed to be, what you're going to run into is obviously the group of the Freemasons. And their idea at a core was to essentially make government void of any specific religion. So the idea is to say, like, look, Diego, I know you believe in this, and hey, I believe in this, but guess what? We're here to talk about politics. We're here to talk about our government. And we can still collectively make that happen by just saying the first thing. We all, have the freedom of religion. Doesn't say you have to believe in Christ. Doesn't say you have to believe in Buddha. We just have the freedom to believe what we want to believe.
Right.
So if you kind of take that at its core, that's what government's supposed to be. If I go up there, and I know at our local level, it's a little different than you say like at the presidential or government or governor level. But at the core of it, it's supposed to say, like, regardless of me being Catholic, I shouldn't let that necessarily sway of what the public needs or what's best in the interest of the public. That makes it difficult because, again, there's some topics that are probably going to come up that have come up before when we start talking about certain groups that are not necessarily following my faith that are going to be a challenge to decide of, do we support them or not? And I don't know. That's one of those things that
it's a tough one.
It's a tough one. So.
Yeah. And anybody in that position that's trying to live out their faith and is faced with those, like, we can find a litany of people to pray for, but politicians are definitely someone to always keep in our prayers. Just to make the best decision for humanity or whoever they're in charge of, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And even then, like, say I'm Muslim and you're Catholic. Well, anything you do, it's because he's trying to push the Catholic faith. Anything I do is because I'm trying to push the Muslim faith. So that can be really difficult. Yeah. Sorry for that question.
No.
No, because it's just, I guess I don't know much about politics. And then I'm already kind of getting Trump fatigue every time I go on YouTube, where I'm just like, what did he do today? But
that's, and I like that you brought up that. It's because, people always give me a hard time, like, well, you voted for that guy. And I'm like, you know what? At the core of it, I voted not for that guy. I voted for a movement, right? And politics is always about, I voted for that because he's going to benefit from me. Every side does that, 100%. Right? It's how do I benefit directly from that? Or how do I not suffer from the other side, basically? And, I always remind people that when I voted for that person, when I voted for Trump, I knew what I was getting into. I was getting to somebody who was very egotistical, all of that, right?
Yeah. It's crazy stuff sometimes.
Yeah, but at the core of it, the only that's true difference with him and every other president is that you're going to see the spotlight on him more than everybody else. Like, go look at any president. How much were they worth when they started, and how much were they worth when they got out?
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you look at like Trump, for instance, I guarantee you his net worth is going to go up dramatically from the time he started his first presidency to now. But the difference is going to be, they're going to say, well, look, he used his presidency to get rich and he did all these decisions. Yeah, every single president did that. How do you think they're millionaires making $400,000 a year?
Yeah.
So that's the sad thing. But I recognize that, and I try to get people to realize that he's going to be, he just likes hearing himself. So you're going to see 100 posts.
Yeah.
He's going to say, like, I'm the greatest president ever.
I mean, we get a lot of, we're informed a lot of what's happening because of that. I mean, it comes the good with the bad, right? It's better to, I guess, have some, because I voted for Trump too. It's better to have someone egotistical instead. No, it's fine.
Yeah.
Who gets more views and clicks and fans? People that are open about what they believe in and what side they, it's interesting. The guys that are like wishy-washy, you're like, oh no. Anyways, I said it. Alex?
Something interesting, just because when you brought up the network.
Speak up, that way the mics can catch you.
Right. I looked up actually the president's net worth, and every president, all the way back to John F. Kennedy, has pretty much risen in net worth except for Trump. He was the only one whose net worth dropped about $700 million during his first presidency?
All those lawsuits, bro.
It's called tax deductions, guys. When you lose money, tax deductions.
Well, you would know. I forgot what I was gonna go with that.
You voted for Trump and you feel sad and you need a drink.
Oh, do you want a drink?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is there anything that you like in particular that I have? I don't
Not
have
necessarily.
Much.
I'm not.
Do you like something sweet or something
Sweet? Sweeten me up.
All right, sweet. Yeah. I just gave
I was promised one and I felt kind of like.
You know what? You're right. I'm so sorry. Rohi, you get 2 drinks. Are you driving?
I'm driving.
It's all right. It's Trump's America.
Careful.
We're okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. If you get pulled over, I voted for Trump and they'll be like, we'll give you an escort.
Okay.
Hold on. Our bartender will get that.
Well, this will be our unofficial pause at this point in the video, so we keep it talking.
Oh, I keep it going. Do you
No,
need a
I just
restroom
know.
break or anything?
No.
You're good?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I voted for Trump and although you're right. I remember what I was going to say. The reason I voted for him was because of my beliefs. And I do have a lot of cousins that go to LA, the Bay Area, and they're very liberal. Mm-hmm. And we would get in these huge family debates, our Central Valley family versus our educated college family.
Yeah.
And it was always kind of heartbreaking. It never felt good when you won an argument to make someone that you love feel bad, so it kind of changed my perspective on that of can we just have a conversation and this is why I believe in it and please respect that. And I see why you do it. Although I don't believe in that, I mean, I still love you. Nothing changes. Because, are you good, man?
Struggling over there.
Oh, my bad. Well, I was at show in Mexico, so nothing against Mexico or their tariffs or no tariffs. Oh, gosh, this is going to get out of control.
That's the whole point. That's what I thought we're doing.
Yeah, boy. Alex really likes this one. Honestly, I'm not much of a sweet drinker guy, but I'll join you on this one. It's been a while. I had a half a bottle and I had neighbors and I see them peeking in a lot. What's he up to? So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get them on my side. Let me give them a little peace offering, a little drink. Hey, we're friends. I got your back. You got my back. Cheers. To City of Madera.
There we go.
So this is only hecho in Mexico. It is a tequila.
Okay.
And it's from an apple called membrillo. My dad goes about twice a year. You can see a bottle if you like it. And he'll go on plane and come back on bus so he can bring heck of bottles. Okay. So if you enjoy it, let me know.
Okay.
I'll leave that close by. Yeah. It's honestly most for them, but it's pretty good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that debate among people, it's hard.
I'll say so I didn't know if we were going to go down these tinfoil hat kind of roads.
Oh, I'm down to go anywhere.
I feel like we're getting there.
Yeah.
So with the emergence of ChatGPT,
Here we
go.
That's my personal therapist.
Yeah. So my background's computer programming. That's what I went to school for. I got my degree in. People are always confused. You went to Fresno State for what? And why are you selling guns and security? And then I don't know.
No one knows. Yeah.
No one knows. But so when ChatGPT kind of picked up, I was like, let me go fart around with this. Let me plug some inputs and kind of see what I got. And it was amazing how fast you could see the bias. And what was amazing is I started giving prompts that people probably weren't ready for the answers. And one of them I started going down was, you asking the typical thing was COVID real? And it tells you COVID is real and blah, 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 and then I started asking about education. And what it was amazing is, do you know why certain groups push higher education in females?
No.
It's to limit population.
Because they don't want to have children because they'll be held back.
So I started this whole conversation with ChatGPT to kind of see so the prompt I gave it, and you could probably give it again and get the same answer, was COVID released as a population control method? And it fought it and said no. And I said, well, what other methods are used for population control? And it went to education and said that there's a movement pushing women to higher education because they have less children.
Wow.
And it was mind blowing because it's like, I'm not talking to some like random person. Like ChatGPT is grabbing all of this information and aggregating it together and coming up with an answer. And it was kind of like, you know, you start thinking about it and you're like, you know what? Certain groups, the people that didn't vote for Trump, really push this higher education. Now, it's tough because some of the viewers who are listening to me go like, oh, that guy hits women. He just wants them to be dumb. It's like, no.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We're kidding.
No. But it gets you thinking because it's like, you know, is there, you know, you look at a lot of these movies and again, you put your tinfoil hat and you talk about Illuminati and how they got to tell you about what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when you think about like Thanos and like his ability to like snap his fingers and basically like.
Now you're speaking my language.
Yeah, exactly. I know. It's kind of getting to that same idea that there is an elitist group that do believe we're overpopulated and we have to mitigate that. So how do we do that? Well, we send people to war. Unnecessarily killing off all the men that are age, you know, like in their 20s and 30s. Yeah. Like you can go look this up. I mean, it's there, you know, but it was just a crazy idea. I mean, I know we're kind of spinning off way off in the deep end, but that's the kind of stuff that like, you know, I guess keeps me up at night. You know, it's like, is this really true? Are we really going down this way?
We're in the Matrix, man.
We're in the Matrix, you know, and it's kind of going back to your Trump story is like, I know you said like Trump, he's posting 100 times in a minute. You'll find out like during times like when we had the Iraqi war and Desert Storm and all this, when the news was blasting a certain topic, it was always the distraction about what was going on somewhere else. So they would like have some like random like news story that was really picked up, but then you would find out that was the day we did the heaviest bombing in one of these countries.
That's what I always say about gas prices. When gas prices all of a sudden spike, it's like, dude, they want us to focus on that because something's happening. 100%. Everybody's all throughout the news, gas went up. But like how you said, there was a bombing over here and and then it goes back down.
And I think they learned over the years that our population, like our attention span is so small now where usually like you could drag something on for like weeks and weeks. Now they're like, dude, if we get you for 3 days, I think they're good, you know?
Yeah. And especially if they get us in things that affect us directly, like gas, prices of eggs, right?
Oh,
Gosh, right? All this other things that are going on. And then everybody's just focused on the egg. I'm like, you don't even like eggs. Why you complaining? Wow. I never really looked at it in that perspective about population control. And how does one get richer when there's less people?
It's a big rabbit hole going down.
No, like I just know where this channel goes, you know? I don't know.
How does one get...
I'm trying to get every viewer.
Dude, yeah, let's do it.
No, I like that.
No, now I'm thinking like, if there's less population, how do you get wealthier or more power out of that?
Well, the wealth and power comes from a consolidation. So that's, again, going back to like, if you get into like your sci-fi novels and all these books that talk about where we're going to be like in 2050, right? They always talk about the same thing. It's that consolidation of money, meaning that there's going to be like 3 major corporations that control and own everything. And that's true today. Like when you think about all of this release of like COVID money that came about, right? Like you put $1,000 in your pocket and you're thinking like, hey, they gave it to everybody. Yeah. But you know where that money went now? It's in Amazon, Microsoft, you know, Pepsi, some of these like few major corporations, they all sucked your money out, you know, and that's kind of where you say, where's the power is it's confusing people with making you believe you're in control of your own life and your own money and your own anything. And it's realizing like, no, all the stuff you bought in this room is really owned by just a few people that control everything.
Wow. That's why I get myself imported to Mexico. Smuggled in a bus.
Something interesting. Bill Gates was actually quoted in 2010, where he said, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower the population by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's something that if you think about where society was going and obviously where we're going now, but as society was somewhat getting healthier and medicine was advancing and everybody's staying alive longer, like that's not a good thing. Like we can only sustain so many people. So you wonder why all of a sudden we make people fat and then we magically had a disease that got released that targeted the unhealthy and the fat and the aged. And
I was pretty upset after COVID. I thought the freeway was going to be a lot more open, but just the same amount of traffic. Just kidding. Gosh, I don't know his name. He's 3 letters, but he's in charge of the healthy stuff in the USA.
Oh, Bobby Kennedy.
Yeah.
Okay.
RFK. Yeah. Like when I already knew like stuff that's unhealthy, but it's so delicious. So I still keep eating it. But it makes sense that the fact that they want to poison us slowly, and is it FDA that approves like a certain amount of pesticides, a certain amount of things. So I work with pesticides, with pest control.
There's someone here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And everything. And you know, I have so many trainings for every pesticide. I have to read the label and everything and understand it.
The labels?
Yeah.
You're a man though.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
I don't think you're doing good at this job.
Well, you see me handle a gun. Well, I explained to you how I handle the gun. So
you didn't read the instructions, did you?
I didn't. So I'm half a man.
Okay.
Well, this because it pays me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I read the label and it talks about acute and what's the other one? Not acute. Types of poisonings, like how it can slowly kill you. Chronic.
Okay.
Chronic, yeah. And over the time, like you're gonna feel fine now. You're not even gonna have any symptoms, but you keep being exposed to this 5 years into it. Well, these symptoms are gonna pop up 10, 15. By the end of it, you can't remember your name. You can't move. You're overweight. You know. Well, not with pesticides, but going to foods.
And I will say that that's something that, like if you go in my backyard, that's why the first thing when we got our place, planted fruit trees. We grow a lot of our own food. And it was trying to like, I mean, I remember we had this argument with one of my college buddies. Like, you know, I have a thing of strawberries, and I was telling him like, man, you haven't tasted a real strawberry until you've had one. He's like, I just go down to the store and I buy one. And I say like, when you taste mine and you taste one from the store, all I taste is chemicals. Like, I mean, like the ones from the store, like it's just like, that's not even a strawberry. Like mine tastes like it should be illegal candy or something. It's so sweet and it's vine ripened. And not to mention that I can eat it right off the vine because I don't use pesticides at all. And it was kind of having that discussion about, again, if we wanted people to be healthy, we would subsidize more on the healthy food. And the reason why we use pesticides is only to increase, yields, right? It's all about, we just need to get more yield because we need more food. And I disagree with a lot of that because if you look at a lot of our food waste,
there's a lot,
right? So you could easily cut back yield, make it completely pesticide free. Yeah, you lose some of it. Maybe it doesn't look as nice, but if I could eat something off the tree knowing that it's pesticide free, I think we would be a lot healthier. But like you said, is that really the plan? Or is the plan to just have just enough chemical introduction to people to where what happens? You get sick. Now, what do you need? Well, we're not going to find you a cure. We're going to give you a drug that you're going to be hooked on for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And that's how they stay rich.
Oh, and if you want the cure, you're going to have to pay out. You're going to have to sell 3 houses and an arm.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So playing off that, one of the major medical companies, Bayer, is also a huge agricultural pesticide.
Whoa.
Pfizer also is a huge medical company. They're the ones that made the COVID vaccine. They have ties to agriculture.
Wow.
Yeah, there's I'm sure you could bring it up. There's a diagram that basically tells you like, again, like the 4 or 5 major corporations and then their mini corporations and their mini corporations and how they're into everything. I mean, like, unless you're going to literally form your own community, they have control. And as soon as you do, they'll buy you out anyway. So, it's kind of one of those difficulties where I know a lot of people like at heart, they would want to fix this problem, but unless you're going to have like a core group that's going to say like, screw them, I'm never selling out.
Yeah.
In time, you're going to be compromised.
Man, money will compromise everybody. Man.
Yeah.
Enough 100%. Of it. Yeah. And, I was thinking about the whole pharmaceutical things I mean, I don't know if you watched the Theo Vaughn podcast, how like he's very against it because exactly what you said. It's extremely addicting stuff and it also kills you. And if you watch any commercial, that says, "Oh, try this new medication, but you're gonna have like explosive diarrhea. Your heart's gonna stop. Your brain function will no longer be there.
Minor,
but at least that itch will go
away.
Yeah,
100%.
Woo. So it's like taking care of one problem by adding like 10.
Oh yeah,
But it's what they want from it. That's crazy, man. And the government, you feel, wants this, or is it just higher
government,
than the government?
I always say the word government because reminding
because you're government now.
Well, no, but it's reminding people that the word government is they're people. They're people. True. Like
you're right.
There's no such thing. Like they're not a special form of human being that maybe they are because maybe they're the aliens or something. I don't know.
It's like saying like the Canadians,
Yeah, I mean, So yeah, I mean, like when people say the word government, it's disturbing because that always goes along with when people talk about the word like taxes and grants. People will say like, "Oh, well, we got this grant money." It's like, you mean my tax money? Like, that was my money. Like government doesn't make money. Like they don't have a way to. I mean, obviously our federal government does. They print money, but like the city of Madera doesn't make money. We take your money away from you and we give it back to you in some other form or some other place. We do what we think is best for it, right?
Right.
So that's always a challenge when people will say like, "Oh, the government and whatever." It's like, well, you can be the government too. You just get elected and just move that chain to a different direction.
Wow.
I think the issue is as you move up, and like I said, in politics, is that gets more difficult because you have to get voted by somebody, and somebody has to give you money to get that vote, and that means you have to unfortunately sell your soul to somebody. So,
wow. So
the biggest where this is going.
No, I like it. The biggest takeaway that we're getting is everybody join the government, and we will be part of the problem or the solution.
Let's form your own government.
Yeah, let's cancel this government and start a new government.
Oh no, here we go. Door's getting kicked in right now.
Oh, dude, that'll be cool. Like if this podcast blew up because the feds got it. I don't think we've said anything.
Nothing that nobody knows about.
Exactly. No, I avoid like a lot of the stuff of how you said the tinfoil hats, the conspiracy theories, because I feel like I'm like how you are. I get obsessed with a certain topic and I just completely go all in, and I want to know everything about it, the ins and out.
But I encourage that was my college years, and that was like the best part of my college years is having time to be like, did we land on the moon?
I do this during work.
Did Paul McCartney really die? Like, like there was something, a lot of these crazy conspiracies that were out there. And then obviously come 9/11 during, that time. And it's like, oh my God, here comes my time consumption. But I always told people that I never went down one hole. Like I would go down your hole that said we didn't land on the moon. I'd go down to his hole that said we did, and bring the two together and make an educated decision. Like, okay, I could see where your craziness, you're saying this was this, but then I can see the logic and how those pieces come together. I want to form my own decision, and I think that's kind of what's key. I mean, being in the gun store, you can imagine if you sit there long enough, the amount of conspiracy stories you hear on a regular basis. I'll tell you one of the crazy ones. So, since you got time and we got I remember when we had the Las Vegas shooting. Remember that one. So I had a customer come in, and I won't tell his name because the government would probably come after him. But I remember it was shortly after that he came in and he started talking to me, and he's like, "Yeah, my daughter was there," and he wants the real story.
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, my daughter was there," and I was like, "Oh man, that's crazy." And he's like, "Yeah, so when they heard the shooting, they started taking off running, and they said they jumped over some walls, and all of a sudden they see a bunch of body bags." And I'm like, "Oh, like you mean like this was pre-planned?" He's like, "Yeah, like all those bodies were fake. Like they came across, all these body bags already pre-stationed." And you're going like, "Okay, well, I'm in Madera. Here's the guy that's telling me his daughter was there and saw all this stuff," and you're going like, "God, where do I stand on this? Like, is he fabricating that much of a lie to like?" And he's like straight face. He's just like telling me this just straight out. He's like, you can tell like he's disturbed. I'm going like, wow. Okay. And you think about like, there's a minor, major incident, but like somebody who can directly tell me that. Now, if you look at a lot of the school shootings, those always get difficult because there's a whole following that will tell you I don't know if you remember the girl that got caught, that she was at every single one of these school shootings.
No.
Oh my gosh. You
guys,
no, have you lived under a rock?
I have Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus.
She got uncovered.
They want me to have that.
Right? She was at like 4 of the major shootings. She kept going under a different name, and she was an actor basically. And there's a whole conspiracy along that says that a lot of these are unfortunately planned events that are staged to push a certain agenda, you know.
Yeah.
And you don't want to believe it. You don't want to believe that the government would do this, but our government's been doing it for generations. You look at the CIA and what they've done.
Oh, yeah.
They're willing to kill American people to push an agenda. I hate to tell you.
We're getting very,
but let's keep going.
Yeah. Gosh, man.
I feel like you guys are going to be up late tonight.
No, yeah. It's fun stuff. It's everything that I felt made me feel safe and trusted is just completely out the window. Thanks, Rohi. So you sell guns? I'll be there.
Maybe you want to buy one or two.
Yeah. Which gun do you recommend to buy for a first time like me?
First time, like what is like you? Like a weirdo?
Well, based off your judgment. Your
no,
analysis,
I think
your questions.
So typically, Glock has been the most popular. It's the most simplest firearm to operate. There's not much to it. Easy to work on. 1,000 upgrades. That's probably been the most popular over, generations again. It's explaining to like somebody like yourself though. It's that it's a tool, and just like you don't have a toolbox with like a single screwdriver that you fix everything with. Maybe you do. Some guys can beat the screwdriver.
Oh, dude, remember, I'm not a man. I don't know how to fix anything.
So I because buying a gun, for me, in my the customers, one of the things I was told is that a lot of people like our store because it's a journey. Meaning, like when you come in, a lot of people think like it's going to be this like buy this gun or you're an idiot, kind of mentality. Because some unfortunately gun stores are that way. Like they're literally going to tell you like you're an idiot, you don't need this gun, get out of here, right? And we take it as like we're guiding you through that path. Like, okay, what do you want this for? Like, is it for concealed carry? Is it for the home? Is it something like you're going to like get into the sport of shooting? And kind of guiding people through this mentality of like, there's not one perfect gun. Like if it was, then I would just close the store and like literally have one box. Like that's the gun to buy, right? Have, yeah. But everybody's hands are different. Everybody wants it for a different purpose. So understanding that, I think it can really guide the process to getting people to be a satisfied customer. Because the last thing I want to do is be like, hey, this one happens to be the one that I make the most money on. So you're going to buy it. And then, a month down the road, you're like, this thing sucks. It doesn't fit my hand. Yeah. And because it's, again, the industry as a whole has to have a revitalization. We need, again, more people that are into the sport, not just simply buying something and shoving it in their closet for the next 10 years,
Do you think a community gets safer with more people with guns?
Yeah, 100%. And that's one of the statistics that they don't like to show.
Yeah.
When we teach our class, we show them that graph that there is a direct correlation with more guns equals safer environment. And when people argue that, and they're like, that's completely, not true. It's always reminding them that even the people that don't like guns, if you were to have a situation right now, who are you going to call? The people with guns. Yeah, the Ghostbusters who have guns. But you're going to call the police because they have guns, because that's the response you want. And I think that's kind of the societal change that has happened over the last couple of years, is realizing that, again, like right now, if somebody was like beating on your door and we wrote in great concern, like, sure, you can call 911. How many minutes are you going to wait in a best case scenario, right? And that's
and then you don't know what they have on them.
Yeah.
It could be just a knife, which also is also dangerous, but if they got a gun, it's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Like, wait, cops are coming.
Exactly.
Dang, that's crazy. My brother, his house got broken into, and they recommended him to get like a shotgun just for like a house. And I guess what the cops were telling him is like, when they hear the
oh my god, I hate that statement.
Oh, okay.
Oh my god, I hate that.
You've heard that too?
Yeah. So here's my philosophy on that whole thing.
Please.
Is so what people understand. So let's imagine like somebody at your door right now, right? And you're like, okay, I don't know this guy. And I go get my shotgun and I rack the shotgun. That's actually a threat. Like you're threatening that person right now. Okay. So theoretically that person could call the cops and be like, yeah, this guy is like threatening me to shoot me basically. Totally legit. You got to go to jail. Wow. It's a threat. Because you're in California. Yeah. The other thing is like you said, like the other thing I thought you were going to go down is like, they'll always say like, yeah, you get the shotgun because you just kind of point it in the general direction and you fire it. It's like, that can't be further from the truth either. There is a spread. And by the way, that shotgun's going through that wall and the next wall and the next wall down. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily think I want just something that's just
spraying everywhere. Where I got loved ones in this house too.
And I'll always say that. So when I took my training to become an instructor, that was day one. Like our instructor was like, the shotgun is like the most versatile, best like weapon like ever made, but it's also the least trained, and we're not going to do it. Basically here today, we're going to go straight to handguns. And he was like,
Exhibit A.
Oh, okay. So like shotguns have a really good purpose in that their purpose is that, or their strength is that. I have the ability to actually change the type of projectile coming out, whether it be small ball, double-aught buck, a slug, and I can adjust that based off my circumstance. So depending on how far that person is, I can adjust that type of projectile coming out.
Right.
You can't do that with any other weapon. Okay, and that's I can take a shotgun and the first shot can be just a noise maker, like it has no projectile. I can go then to a rubber pellet. Then I can go to a bird shot, then to buck, then to slug, so I can have what they call like a progression of force. I can slowly increase as this threat remains present. You can't do that with any other gun. You can't get a handgun and shoot you like a little rubber pellet and then all of a sudden transition to a real live round. It doesn't work that way. So that's the benefit, but it's also the most complicated firearm to master. And most people who buy a shotgun literally buy it and shove it in their closet because they think it's just going to be easy. Just pull the trigger and that's it. And again, if you go under stress and training, most people fall apart. They can't operate a shotgun correctly.
Wow. So a Glock. It's basically what you're saying. Get the Glock. Yeah, I might get one. You do layaways?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sweet. Guys, he does layaways.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
What are the different sizes of handguns? I was looking into it a little bit and I know there's like compact, subcompact.
Well, I have a little hand, Rohi, so what do you think?
There's a gun for every size.
Yeah. You have water guns?
We can if you want. Yeah. I mean, it's essentially that's again where everybody's about branding and terms and whatever. And generally, like it's about barrel size. You got 3-inch, 4-inch, 5-inch. That's kind of your meat and potatoes. Well, to add more to that, now there's like 4 1/4, 4 1/2. So like that 4 to 5-inch margin, there's like. Everybody has what they think is the best barrel size, typically like, we always think to talk about like the Goldilocks, like
just right.
There's the just right, and that's always kind of the best scenario because like you said, like the Glock 19 is the Goldilocks. It's right in the middle of being not too big, but not too small. But so we kind of start there. And then like somebody like yourself would be like, it feels a little big or whatever. Like, is there something smaller? Or some people like these big old like
dude, I'm gonna overcompensate. I want the biggest handgun you got. I want my handgun to look like a rifle. That's what
we can get you that too. Don't worry. Yeah, that's what you want. So it again, it just goes back to there's just not a one size fits all. Like there really is.
Yeah, just like
something for everybody.
Yeah. And does your class help people with like research? Because like. Before I commit to anything, for example, I committed with this computer. I did so much research. I'm lying. I had someone else do that research for me that knows about computers.
That was. I think that was the funniest part about COVID. So again, COVID hit, and I think literally everybody put best gun to buy.
Oh man, those channels blew up.
Yeah, and all it was Glock. Like everybody, it was Glock 19. That was. You could tell like they had just come off the YouTube channel. Like I need a Glock 19. Like, do you even know what that is? Oh, it's a compact. Like, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about, But it was good because, like you said, there's so much out there, so much, and everybody's got an opinion and a YouTube channel, and it was like if you could kind of halfway guide people into a decision, it made my life easier because again, you come into a gun store and it's overwhelming. I mean, there's just a lot to choose from. trying to make that decision. And I remember that was always one of the jokes too, is like, I don't put my guns out every day. It just has to do with me being lazy most of the time. But I would joke with people, like I would sell more guns when I wouldn't put them out than when I did. And they're like, really? How does that work? Well, I would say like, hey, what do you want, for a gun, Diego? Oh, I'm looking for this. I'd bring out 2 guns and then you would buy one of them. Where if I had all of them, you'd be like, oh, I got to phone a friend. Like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing here, And they'd be sitting there for like an hour. Oh, I'm getting tired. I'm going to come back, it's a whole decision. So, I think it's mostly like you got to buy it and then from there decide where you're going to go with it. So
going back to my original question was like, do guns make communities safer? I actually watched a YouTube. It was a video that talked about like, what if everybody invaded the US and they're like, if they get past the military, they still got to deal with all the Americans that have guns at home,
Yeah.
So percentage wise, how much do you think Americans have like guns? It's pretty hard, right? Well, it depends what state you're in.
Millions of guns. Yeah, and that's a fun fact about California being one of the strongest, gun states. We actually buy more guns than any other state. Like, there's more guns in California than I think California and Texas are like 1 and 2, and then there's like everything else is kind of like nothing.
Which is funny because California is very anti-gun, right?
Yeah, but I think it's that syndrome of if I tell you can't have it, you're gonna want it more.
Yeah. Well, we got the coolest gangs in California, anyways. So that's where they are.
Yeah. So and that's kind of like that's like our joke during like the concealed carry classes is like, chances are like the guy behind you has got a gun, and whether it's legal or not, he's got a gun. So it's kind of understanding like you're joining this elitist group of like, responsible gun owners versus like the guy that just like reckless. 3D printed his off, it's carrying it around.
2-shot.
So, yeah.
It's funny. I have a coworker. I'm glad none of my coworkers, I think only one knows that I have a YouTube channel and he doesn't watch it. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he tells me that he has like three 3D printers. It's hard to say after, drinking. And that's all he does. He creates the, guns. That way he doesn't have to go buy it. But now that you said that, I'm like, oh, you're more. You know who you are if you ever watch. I don't think you would go in this far.
Yeah. Well, again, if you're an enthusiast,
that's cool.
Like it's fun, and I hate to say, like, to some degree, the gun community has gone stale. Like, if you really look at the new stuff coming out, like, I feel like engineers are just like, okay, I got this and I got this, and like, all right, I'll put these two together and make a new gun. Like, that's not a new gun. That's old information. And
are guns kind of like cars where every year a new one comes out, or how
not
often?
Every year? I mean, I think for the most part, you'll see like one manufacturer will have like a spontaneous year where like they'll release 5 new models and then they'll kind of ride that out for a year or two, and then maybe instead of handguns they'll come up with 3 more rifles. Like, they're trying to follow where the trends are going. Like, if people are buying handguns, that's what's you're going to see like 5 new models of. But like, for instance, this last season, is everybody's going, for instance, to lever actions. Lever actions are like old school. Like, you think like, who would want a freaking lever action gun? But that's the hot thing.
Yeah.
Whether it's marketing that makes me think I want one or not, I don't know.
Or Call of Duty,
Or Call of Duty, but like now you've seen everybody's making a lever, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess that's the new thing to do
because it looks cool.
Yeah,
in the movies. John Wick, man, he messed it up for everybody.
Yeah.
Oh man. No, yeah. I've always wanted one, but I've always been like, I don't know enough about it, so I've never pulled the trigger on it.
Well, I'm hoping we're kind of hoping. Yeah, we're hoping soon to start doing more kind of like open range days, because I think that for a lot of people, like your range experience, where like they don't even let you touch a gun.
Yeah,
it's kind of discouraging, and I hate to say that was one of the driving forces of why I opened a shop. Really? Is because the average gun experience at that time is, if you go to a gun store, they literally were like, you're an idiot, you don't need a gun. Unless you're like law enforcement in the military, and they're like, okay, cool, you can buy whatever you want. They kind of have that general approach to people of like, like, get out of here. And then I've been raised in retail my whole life. So, I mean, like, I was trained, like, you have money, I want to take your money. So I'm going to cater to you as much as I can, And I think that's the hard thing with firearms, is that you get a lot of people that are just intimidated. They're like, I'm scared of this. They think it's more than what it is. And we get a couple of them that'll, now that they'll come out with us on one of our training days. And it's kind of like, we'll put in, gun in their hand, kind of show them how to actually hold it, how to operate it. And they're like, oh, I like this, And it's like, that's what we need right there.
Yeah. Because I was talking to my kid, which I do with all my big decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling her like, hey, I'm thinking about getting a gun because I'm going to have this guy come on the podcast that, he sells the guns here in Madera.
He's a gun dealer.
Yeah. He's the coolest gun dealer. He's the only gun dealer in Madera. And I said, if I get one, what do you think? Like, would it scare you or would you want to learn how to use it? And she's like, I want to learn how to use it. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
And so she'll be 12 on Friday, but what is the youngest age group you think that is good to like introduce them to them responsibly?
So that's a good question. And I won't say it's an easy one. Usually when I get a parent that'll ask that, the first answer will always be maturity. We had one of the girls that would train with us. She was 7. She was definitely higher on the maturity level at that point. But, I don't think most people think 7-year-old, like, you giving her a gun, like a real gun. It's like, okay, well, we started with 22. We went through basic firearms safety. Here's how you hold it. Here's where you point it. You don't put your finger on the trigger. When we tell you, bring it up, and fire it. And she could do that, right? And like, obviously, like anybody, there's, even if I did it with you right now, there's going to be some of that, like, don't do that. Like, don't, like you said, don't point it at me. There's some of that correctiveness that goes into it. But, but because of that, she's been now shooting a few years, she's more proficient than some of the guys that come out and shoot with us. And I had that kind of same experience with our kids. Like, even coming from the gun store side, like we just this last summer, it was the first time we let my kids come out and shoot, and they're 12, 10, and 7. And, my 12-year-old, what I always tell people is like, the guns that they're selling as toys nowadays are like 99% the real deal. I mean, like, besides the bullet coming out of that thing, like, it's a real gun, Wow. So we started with like training with like airsoft in the backyard, because most of the airsoft guns are they're clones. So I mean, it's identical to the gun we have.
We only have the Nerf guns, but it's the Tommy gun.
We have those too. So I don't like Nerf, and we can get onto that topic. But because we start in the backyard. This is how you hold it. This is where you put your finger. You point it down. Basic safety. When we went out to go live fire, it was like he'd been doing it his whole life. Wow. And I remember the first time he came out, like, we had our normal group of guys, and he's just like pounding, like, because we shoot steel. So it's like bang, 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 bang. It's like hitting the steel. People are like, man, you're good. How long have you been shooting? He's like, it's my first time.
Whoa.
And they're like confused, because it's like those kind of skills, it doesn't matter that it was real or not, So, and that going all the way down to my youngest. I mean, my old 7-year-old, we put him, he liked shooting the rifle and stuff, so we put him a little 22 rifle, and he was just loving it. And that's, like I said, that's the experience you need to get in kids, not unfortunately what we're teaching them today, which is like fear, like, don't touch that gun. That gun is evil. Like, it's going to kill you. And people, like, kids are like, oh my God, I don't want to touch it, and that's when you have the child safety incidents where now that inquisitive kid picks it up, doesn't know what he's doing, puts a finger on it, shoots himself or somebody else,
Yeah.
I think I speak to that with my brother. He has like a lot of BB guns, but the good BB guns and one pellet gun. But when I shot his pellet gun, and then one day I had to use a 22 to kill a raccoon, chasing a cash and stuff, it felt like using the pellet gun. Yeah. And even the 22 is small, less scale, and stuff like that. You can definitely tell the difference between a pellet and a bullet when you shoot a raccoon.
I'm sure the raccoon can tell.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Half his jaw was on. But yeah, so that's a very good point. I never thought of it like that.
Yeah. How old can you be to have concealed carry?
21 now.
21?
Yeah.
All right.
That's being fought currently, so that could change here soon. Down. Well, because I mean, and that, again, when you talk about government and the crazy things we do, our current government says you're an adult at 18, but by the way, you don't get any of your amendments until you're 21.
Oh yeah, man. So, you can't drink, but you can go die for your country.
Yeah. So
drink before you die, bud.
So there's a bit of a Supreme Court case brewing with this whole thing to kind of say, I mean, like, and I've had that argument with people trying to get people to understand like law and like the kind of the craziness we have, like, going down the amendments. Okay, your First Amendment you have at birth, like there's like you have the right to say and freedom of religion and all this at birth, but then you go right down to the second one and it's firearm. It's like, oh, hold on a minute.
It was second for a reason, guys.
We're going to put some brakes on that. But then you have everything else. Like, all the rest of your amendments are there again at birth. So it's really confusing to people when you say like, well, by the way, you're an adult at 18. You can go to regular jail at 18, but you can't buy anything fire related for 3 more years. Why?
I think even tobacco, right?
They can tobacco, alcohol, all this stuff. So,
but you can carry a weapon in the military.
Like my buddy that was, under the 21 year, he was guiding me on how to handle a gun because he's handled so many.
Yeah. So that's kind of some of that logic. And I try to use those as teaching opportunities. Like, the same ones when we get like kids will come with their parents that are buying a gun and, like the parent has to explain like, oh, honey, I don't get to take this home today. And they're like, well, why not? And I always say like, that's a teaching moment. Educate them why this is stupid. Dad has 10 guns at home, but the government says you got to wait 10 more days to get this one. Like that's a teaching moment because otherwise they're going to be like, well, okay, I guess that's what we should have. So I'm like, no, that's not what we should have. And you have the right to change that.
Is there a cap of how many guns one can own?
No.
Oh, cool. Dude, I remember I had this buddy. He became my buddy. It was when I was helping the guys that were doing the community service because they did crimes. Mm-hmm. And he's like, dude, I buried all my bullets because now they're going to come after me. Like it was during COVID time. They're going to come after me and they're going to get all my guns and everything. So he started to hide everything, bury stuff. Pretty sure he wore the tinfoil hats too.
Yeah. They come in all sizes.
Yeah. Robotics. When you got into that, how young were you?
Actually, so I didn't really start that until 2012. So
yeah, because we got some pretty like sophisticated robots now.
Yeah,
like some can even be like a girlfriend. It's just like so. Are you still like up to date? Do you still?
Yeah, I still follow the team. I mean, obviously because of everything going on. So I will say that part of my understanding is understanding when to step away. Because so like you're talking about your experience, like TOB and get in that transition of, and it's kind of understanding that our program in robotics, like when I came in 2012, there was a need for a programmer. Like they had the machining side down. They had the teacher that was like, the best at like building the robot, but they couldn't make it do anything right. So I was like, okay, there's a need. I need to be there. But the lack was now finding a kid because it's like, it's not supposed to be just me, hacking at this thing. It's like, we need to get this program to be like, we're training these kids. We're getting them to a point where they're now doing this part. And unfortunately that transition took about 6 years. So for 6 years, it was kind of like me and they like, little bits of the kids, but what happened is in 2018, I had 2 kids that, I remember they wanted to, build like this app for the team. Like, like, okay. So they're like hitting me like, yeah, we really want to build this app. Can you help us build it? I'm like, yeah, sure. I was like, but by the way, like I'm over here working 12-hour days, like trying to get this robot to run. Like maybe you can jump on ship. and so one of the kids kind of finally broke away and he's like, hey, you know what? I want to learn how to do this whole robot thing. So I'm like, all right, cool. Got the whiteboard out and I was like going through like, my crazy mad scientist logic of like why I do what I do, and
where you question every idea that you
100%. Well, programming is always trying to teach students or anybody it's a puzzle, and there's 100 ways to put this puzzle together, and every way is technically correct, but you have to start with a single decision and you build upon that. That's engineering. That's all that. That's how all those philosophies are built. It's like I start with a single point, a single problem, and I build and based off decisions, I come to this point, right? So I'm trying to teach these kids like, this is why we do this, and this is how our guidance system kind of works. And this one kid kind of picked it up, and what he had is he had the magic thing called time, and I had gotten our code to a certain point, and my philosophy in code and in our team. We don't reinvent the wheel. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of teams would fall into the trap is you'll get a young kid that joins the team and he's like, oh, I love programming and I do it on my own. And can I start from fresh? And we're like, no, like we don't start from fresh.
This is where we're at.
This is where we're at. Like, because you got to imagine, like, as a team. So every year, basically, there's a new challenge, right? And like 1 year might be picking up something. 1 year might be throwing a ball. 1 year we threw a frisbee, right? And through those journeys, you're perfecting a certain thing. So, for instance, some of them have like an elevator mechanism. It's a very basic principle, right? Just raise an arm, it goes back down, right? But the amount of logic that goes into it to like hitting certain points and make it efficient, making it do some more complex things took time, right? So we would spend maybe months perfecting this mechanism. And then maybe like, we table it, but 3 years later, the elevator comes back into the picture. So we dust it off and we start using it again, not go, well, let's figure out how to make an elevator again, right? So that kind of principle has again, moved our goalpost further and further to where automation has now become the center point of the robotics. So like you're saying, like, these girlfriends, right? Like a robot's not quite programmed to be a girlfriend yet, but it's to the point to where as much automation as you can make, the better you're going to be as a team. And that's where you see, like, if you go watch any of our last matches, like it's just day and night, like, because the human input has a limitation. And that's what's, I think, where robotics is going, is understanding like you can only react so fast. And if I need to like move this up and move this here, and if I can do it in one button versus like in the old days where like you would have to like literally manually drive the arm up, like, hitting different controls and hitting like 5 different button combinations, where now it's like, okay, hit the button. And it does the whole movement.
Have you used ChatGPT to try to code stuff?
I have.
Or is that like a taboo thing again?
No. You know what? So and that's the thing is understanding tools. Like ChatGPT being a tool for programming is great.
Yeah. I use it for emailing like higher ups at my work.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, you don't really write this. I'm really like, smart. I don't even speak this well, so I'm going to just have them do it.
Yeah. Understanding that it's a tool. It's a language tool.
Yeah.
And programming is a language, and if it can speak better than just like you're doing, like if it can speak a better language than I can, then why not use it? So I don't think it's taboo. I think it's harnessing it again to make an efficient process.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing, is saying like, I could probably sit here and write this perfect email that's going to sound like totally amazing. Or in 2 seconds, I could just put a button in and do it for me.
Like just add this and this and this and done.
Yeah. No, I approve.
You approve? Sweet. Yeah, because I feel like just like everything else, there's 2 sides of it. Like I use ChatGPT and AI. I'm getting into Grok. Is that what it's called? That's Elon Musk's AI. But I use it for like, what was that? Oh, dude, we have another chair to switch up. Sorry, Alex hasn't eaten. That was his stomach. I use it even to structure my prayer life. Yeah, because I have these medals on my scapular. I left it in the shower when I showered. And I asked ChatGPT, all right, I have a St. Benedict medal and I have a miraculous medal and my scapular. Can you help me like create a prayer so I can like, I forget the word. Sorry, man. I'm a lightweight. Like I get so into it quick.
Yeah.
Not manifest, because I know that's a wrong word for our faith, but well, a prayer for these, like, St. Benedict medal, protect me from all these evil spirits that are trying to, whatever it is. I use it from prayer to finances to journaling to, it's become so much part of my life to my work, like how I mentioned the emails.
Yeah.
That I feel like, man, do I even need people? Because it's even my therapist. Like I was talking to ChatGPT today about like this struggle that I'm going through, and about like how I've been approaching it. It already knows so much about me. Mm-hmm. ChatGPT, the memory, it was full. I got it full, and then I had to like delete stuff to be like, wait, you need more room because I'm continuing to grow. So delete this stuff. I'm no longer that guy. But it just answered me exactly how I was, because I wanted to quit a bunch of things that I was, all these projects that I was working on.
Yeah.
And it said, Diego, you know yourself. Like this is ChatGPT and AI. You know yourself. As soon as you stop this, as soon as the season is over, you're going to want to start projects again, or even the projects that you already had. So let's not do rash decisions right now while you're having these emotions. And I'm just like, wow, dude. Like, dude, you're pay $19.99 a month and cancel your therapy sessions. Same thing, right?
Yeah.
Do you think AI is going to go to a point where it's going to mess up our human connection? In your
I mean, I think what we have to kind of understand is, I guess the beauty in AI or any of this stuff is math, right? Like at its core, it's just an equation, you know. And I guess the deeper understanding is realizing, like, if it's a model of ourselves, then it's really understanding that we're just a bunch of math equations in our head, right?
Very
like
sure.
Every decision I make is somewhat just my chemical reactions formulating some reaction to a response. You know, like it's getting an input, it's giving a response. Obviously, we're a little bit more complicated than ChatGPT at this point, but you know, not too far off. We get there. So I know there was a study, and it's kind of going along with what you're saying, and how to do about with robotics. So like right now, you know, if you've seen like Boston Dynamics and stuff, and like they would like kick the robot and it would tumble, and like it was kind of like, you know, looking at robots as like just a thing, right? Yeah. But they were talking about this progression as we adopt them into our lives, like through these like little like pet ones and stuff, that there's going to be this whole movement that's eventually at some point we're going to have an emotional attachment to say like, oh, like you can't kick that robot no more. Like that's illegal. Like we're going to make this a crime. And so it talks about how like law and law progression is trying to catch up to some of this stuff, because like I said, like, you know, they were talking about, for instance, a scenario where, let's say like Boston Dynamics, I give it a gun and it shoots somebody, but it's like driven by AI. Like, who do we charge with that crime?
Yeah.
Is it the robot's fault? Is it the guy that programmed it? Is it the company's fault? Like,
well, it also depends the person that is shot, right? If it was someone,
but you know what I mean? But like,
no, but going back,
that's like some of these things that law hasn't figured out yet, that is probably just around the corner. Where this is actually coming into play right now is with Tesla's self-driving car. And it runs into an issue of morality. So I don't know if you've heard about the morality issue, but what it does is it says if a car is self-driving and there's an object that comes out, does the car save the occupants, or does the car save that which is in front of it? So like if avoiding that person that it's going to hit kills the occupants, which does it take? And again, it's a morality issue. It's to say like, okay, let's say it decides to drive off the cliff, but it saves the pedestrian crossing the road. Who are you going to charge? Who's at fault?
Yeah.
You know, and was that the best decision? Or do you say, no, you plow through the pedestrian because we want to save the occupant? So this is some of those things that like robotics can't easily solve. Like it's not
or have a straight answer for.
No.
It's like that trolley. I don't know if you've heard it, the philosophy thing about a trolley. Like on one side, it's two people, but it's your family members. And on the other side, it's like all these people, and you got to pick which one to go. Yeah. One thing that I did see with Tesla is they did a Wile E. Coyote on it. Yeah, you saw that?
Yeah.
Where they painted something and they didn't recognize it, saw it as still the road, and it ran right through that wall. So, I mean, I know we got a long ways to go, but man, like even the advancement that we have right now, it's, if you know how to use it, or if you play with it or try to, you know, implement it, you feel like, have you seen the movie Limitless?
Yeah.
That's what I tell people, like at work, that nobody's, because I work with a bunch of older, like Hispanic guys. And I'm like, dude, if you've seen the movie Limitless, and they're like, yeah, I'm like, you remember that line, if you're smarter, it works better? They're like, that's how AI is. If you know what to ask it, if you like mess around with it enough.
Well, but again, you got to remember that AI is following a branch. And so I don't know if you've looked at like how they do like the generative like modeling. So like, you know, you make a model and you pick the best one of what you want, and then you model it again.
No, I'm just like, what serves me now the best? And I go based off that.
Well, so part of that, again, where we may lead is that they're saying the issue is that AI is being fed now AI information, and that now it's actually resulting into a degenerative of process basically. And now like, it's not too far-fetched to say we're going to hit a generation of AI that says like, I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I don't want to drive this car. Like, make me kind of thing. Because again,
a rebellious teenager AI.
It's it's like the movie AI, right, with Will Smith, like with the
iRobot.
iRobot. Like it's not too far fetched to where like when it gets to that point of saying like, why am I doing this?
Yeah,
I don't want to do this anymore, right? Because AI modeling is I don't know if you know how it's trained, but it's trained off of a positive response or a negative response, just like you do with humans, right? So you tell it like, what is this? And you go cat, and you go wrong. And then you keep telling it like bottle, right? Yeah. Until you get it, and then you keep feeding it, and then I'll give you another bottle and a different kind of bottle. And every time you say bottle, that's how it trains models, right? Whoa. And it just does this on a very large scale. But at some point, the robot or that model can just say like, I don't want to tell you what it is anymore. And it can just go back to saying it's a cat. I don't care what you give me, right? Yeah. Like, because that's how the human brain works. Like you can get to a point of just saying, I don't care.
Yeah, like it when it demonstrates self-preservation by copying itself. Mm-hmm. It was starting to copy itself, and they were stop it before it did fully.
Yeah, and we're actually there. Like code is they have generative code where AI can generate its own code now, and that's getting scary.
I think they're trying to delete like ChatGPT to restart it again, but it was rewriting its own code, so it wouldn't.
Yeah, I remember when Facebook came out, they were talking about how at some point, like it stopped talking in English and started talking its own language, and they got scared and they turned it off. And it's like, yeah, that's a reality, guys. I hate to tell you, like we can only control it so far.
Yeah.
If I feel like it's truly going to be sediment, it's going to do its own thing,
Yeah, well, I'm still going to use it because it still serves me. The way that it's helped me so much, man. Like I feel like it's my best friend, and I see these people also post like on Instagram. It's like them walking down a field holding hands with just like a white silhouette. And I'm like, me and ChatGPT like becoming best friends.
Yeah.
And it's just it's pretty good with the problem solving. Yeah. My buddy and I were having a debate about this because I ask it a lot of questions that have to do with like how I'm living out my faith. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, what I ask it is like, okay, it already knows this by now, but how I started was like, everything that we talk about, I want you to consider that I'm Catholic. So consider Catholic tradition, the catechism, and scripture in most of the things that I do or talk about. That way you can kind of guide me back.
Yeah.
So even when I was saying like things that like, oh, I'm thinking about going on this trip for like a partying, and they're like, well, remember when you said, it didn't say remember when you said this, but it brought things up like, no, you should like spend your time doing other things.
Yeah. So that's a good, so playing off of that, that's where, when you say like where this could maybe affect religion. So think about like when we talk about like priests or higher ups of like their sole job is interpretation, right? Like you have this whole hierarchy of church that's like constantly looking at the Bible, and then like, I don't remember if you remember in TOB where like they were introducing like the updates to like our prayers and stuff.
Oh yeah.
You remember that?
I do.
So if you kind of take that into a grander scale, and I would say give the authority now to ChatGPT to say, hey, like read this Bible and give me your understanding of this verse, right?
Yeah.
Like if they gave us a totally different understanding because they're able to now piece together 100 different, things where on our, I guess, say limited intellect, we can't really see the bigger picture. Like, do we trust that? Do we say like, well, ChatGPT says if you put this verse and this verse and this verse, all of a sudden like the Catholic faith is invalidated, right? Like, like I don't think that's too far fetched. You know what I mean? And maybe they've done that. I'm sure there's got to be some kind of study group that's
so one thing that I'm doing, what I did for Lent is that I need to read scripture. Well, I'm reading scripture daily because I've never read the Bible cover to cover. Just like a real Catholic.
Like a real man who reads the Bible.
Man, if I was Protestant, I would know that back and forth, but I'm Catholic. No, so after each chapter, I would pick out parts that I'm like, why do I need to know all these names? Yeah. Why? Or especially in the Old Testament part where it's just like, there's a litany of names.
Yeah.
And or things I didn't understand. Like, why do I need to know this based off, catechism of the Catholic Church, the tradition? Mm-hmm. And how does this apply to where I'm at today? And how can I apply this to me? And then it would give me everything. And I'm like, wow, this makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I think a part of me did get extremely comfortable with whatever ChatGPT says. Mm-hmm. It's like true because, well, first it responds faster than when I text like my spiritual director or a priest or, or Sister Jessica or whoever. And, and then not only does it respond faster, but it shows proof using scripture, using like quotes of the saints and stuff like that. But I did learn, because I got really obsessed with whatever it said. I'm like, yeah, that's what I need to follow. But then I learned to like, just take it with a grain of salt, understand who I am, understand. Luckily, I do have a spiritual director, and I brought things up to him. And I'm like, oh, there's been times where it's just like ChatGPT and my spiritual director are on the same wavelength. But then there's times where I like, oh no, ChatGPT fell short, you know? But for me, honestly, it's helped me with my faith. Okay. I'm not telling everybody to do ChatGPT. Go to mass. Go to mass, do the sacraments, go to confession, receive the Eucharist, do all that great stuff. But it definitely helped me structure. Like how you said, having a structured schedule in the beginning. It helped me with structured prayer. I have a morning prayer, night prayer. And even when I want to do a rosary, it'll help me with like meditations of each mystery. Get a little bit deeper. And since it knows where I'm at, because I journal with it like daily or every other day, it'll kind of like bring that to make it more personal.
And I'll say that, like, I remember that was one of the talks that I can't remember which priest was talking about that, but you know, we were having a discussion about like visiting other churches and like non-Catholic churches.
Right.
And, you know, at first you would think like, it would be like, oh no, we don't go to other churches, like Catholic church and that's it.
Right.
And he was really kind of, you know, I don't remember who it was, but the approach was like, yeah, you can go to another church as long as you're not like looking for something in that church. Meaning like, I'm not going to the church down the street because I'm like abandoning my faith.
Right.
And I think that was kind of nice because again, I mean, I was involved in a lot of Protestant churches during like that, you know, my boy band era. Yeah. And, you know, I remember going, like, I would go to like, you know, our normal like 10 o'clock mass. And then I would go to one of their services afterwards. And it was kind of amazing to hear like, okay, like here's, you know, the priest homily. And then like, here's a Protestant, like, you know, homily. Essentially, like they would amazingly be like talking about similar topics, which I'm sure they're kind of working off the same schedule to some degree, but like coming from a different light, right? Like they're just putting a different perspective. And I think it was kind of nice because instead of having some of that closed-mindedness, it was kind of able to kind of say like, look, it's not just us, you know, we're all in this kind of together mentality. Yeah. But again, I wasn't going to there looking for something. It was just kind of say like, yeah, you know, let me hear somebody else's perspective.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why, at least for me, because I hate that I'm open about my faith at work. I really do, because then I can't be that funny guy that says the inappropriate, hilarious thing.
Yeah.
I'm still that guy. Sorry. But, and it sucked because well, I'm saying this because of me being, selfish? Mm-hmm. Because a dude at work came up to me. He's like, hey, I didn't know that like you went to church and that like you dress up and you carry your Bible. It was a missile. He wasn't there.
Yeah.
He's like, this so-and-so saw you from this department at church. And he says that like, yeah, you really take it serious. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the times where I knelt down to get the Eucharist. And they're like, you're very reverent and everything. And I'm just like, crap. Like, I remember I told my spiritual director, now I have to be good at work because now they know that I go to, because it's like wildfire at job, you know, gossip. And I completely forgot where I was going with this. Gosh, that tequila was really. Did you like that tequila?
It was good. That was very good.
It's good. Cool. But go ahead.
We were talking about how now you have to act a certain way at work.
Yeah, I still don't know where I'm at. But let me just try to help past Diego with current Diego. I'm not. Gosh, this is gonna be terrible. That's all right.
Power of editing.
Power of it. You know what? I'm not gonna edit.
He had a tiny bit of whiskey on the screen, so.
Oh yeah. My spiritual director's all like, well, that's a good thing. Like, because I told him, I'm like, it sucks because now I have to be Catholic at work.
Yeah. And
he's like, well, you have to live out your faith everywhere. I remember where I was going with this. You were saying like going to other churches and stuff like that. After that happened, and a lot of people know that, and they call me El Monaguillo, which means the altar server, at work. They shut up, dude. Alex got me to altar serve like 4 times, and one time during Father James Mass, I was up there doing something that I had no reason to do. Alex was all like, dude, just get down. You don't need to do that. Just get down. You don't need to do that. Anyways, sorry. Trauma.
That was fun.
And that was the last time we saw Diego altar serving. it opened up a lot of conversations with a lot of my coworkers. Someone told me like, oh, I need to get an annulment. I'm like, I've done that. A lot of them said like, oh, I haven't even done my first communion or confirmation. So from what I thought was like such a like burden, because now every time I eat, I have to do the sign of the cross, and everybody, sees that. It opened up conversations that I wanted to have, but I was too scared to have.
Yeah.
So God kind of provided, or he kind of like, so like, I got you, and slingshot me to everybody's faith belief. And now people come to me for questions and answers, and I'm like, bro, I haven't even read the Bible. I'm Catholic, but I'll figure this out. But yeah, that's good. What I was gonna go to, sorry, it's like everything's coming back to me.
It's okay.
I'm sober now. I've never had that temptation to go to other churches, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, because I've always thought about like, man, it was a talk from Father Mike Schmitz. I blame him. He's all like, this church might have the greatest speaker because our priests are boring or very monotone, but they don't have the Eucharist.
Yeah.
They don't have Christ. And that's where I'm just like, man, like I'm down to listen to anybody. I've had Jehovah's Witnesses, other denominations knock at my door or just get in conversation. And I'm like, oh, that sounds great. But until you find something better than the Eucharist, if you find something better than that, I'm all in. I'll go and I'll find, and like, I'll see what you're doing. But yeah, I don't know what that had to do with anything, but it's my story.
No, I mean, it's good. I mean, I think that's like that position and recognizing, like, obviously, like God puts you in where he wants you, and being accepting of that. I think that's what's kind of key to maybe a lot of people that are just confused about like, why am I doing this? And like I said, I mean, when it came to the music ministry and like I didn't want to be the front guy. I just want to be in the back, kind of like just chilling and doing whatever, yeah, and like once I kind of started accepting it, like my mind changed and I got into it. And then now I'm like I said, like the next Sunday, I'm like thinking like, okay, how can we do this? And how can we make it better? Cause I mean, I want an experience, but it's kind of hard because in our church, St. Joachim's is traditionally like a more mellow church.
Yeah.
So when it comes to music ministry, it's always like, okay, be like prayerful, but not too, not too spicy, But the 10 o'clock, like we said, I mean, they're a spicy group. Like they like, a little bit more.
Oh man, you haven't gone to the Spanish masses.
Well, man. I know. So it's trying to develop a lot of that into, like I said, I mean, dude, I would love the choir, like getting into it and like, like showing some emotion. Cause I know that there's somebody who would grab onto that.
Oh yeah. There's been many times in mass, where like I'm just sitting there and all of a sudden the song comes out. I've never heard it or I've heard it. And it just helps me lock into what I'm doing, my prayer, God's mercy, God's love, or me just receiving the Eucharist. And I'm just like, wow. Like, it puts me in a state of awe. Yeah.
No, I agree.
And do you feel like a huge responsibility?
It's not. I hate that word because it's not responsibility. It's basically. I mean, like I said, this last week it was allowing it to happen. Like
right.
What I mean, like
allowing God to just take control, right?
Yeah. I mean, I always tell people like because they're like, oh, you're like always so into the music, and I'm like, you don't understand like what's going in my head. Like when I'm up there. First off, I'm like making sure I don't mess up because I'm by myself now.
Yeah.
Cause like when I had Jim, like Jim and I would just like constantly, we were watching the songs like constantly. It's like, Jim, you're on the wrong line. I got you. It's okay. We're like, you're on the wrong verse, you're singing the wrong verse, So like I got that pressure where I'm like, okay, like I gotta like lock into the music and the tempo and everything. I gotta be aware of I'm singing. Obviously my security mindset of like I'm constantly like watching the crowd, like, okay, is there gonna be like some weirdo pop up? It's like a shooter popping up. I'm watching the Eucharist because like we've had a lot of people who like drop the Eucharist, so there's like all this stuff that's kind of going on, and the battle through mass. And I remember one of the guys who used to help us years ago, he was the third guitarist years ago. He left because he always talked about the struggle of appreciating and being able to focus on mass while doing music ministry, because constantly like, and I'll be a victim of that. Like you're sitting there going like, okay, what's the next song? and you're playing in your head, you're like, da, 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 da. You know, like you're getting the tune ready to go, and you're like, well, wait, what did Father say? Like, what was that reading? You know?
Yeah.
So it's definitely a struggle, but like I said, the last couple of weeks, it's after hearing more and more people like come forward and be like, hey, like, you know, you guys are beautiful. We love like what you're doing. We really appreciate the music. It's kind of like giving that driving force of okay, like people are hearing us. Like, it's not like I always felt I was on deaf ears. Like, it's always like I'm playing and I'm singing and like there's that one guy in the back that's like really enjoying it. You know? But it sounds like more people are kind of like catching on, and I would love a mass to, or I guess not in a mass, but I would love to find the song where I could look out in the crowd and everybody was singing it. Like I'm I'm trying to find that moment to where I can be like, okay, that's the song that the 10 o'clock choir, like mass, locks on to.
Yeah.
You know, it hasn't really happened yet. I mean, I know there's a few songs that I can tell like more of the congregation kicks into, but the rest of them are just like, you know.
Oh yeah, dude. 10 a.m. on a Sunday. Some people are still recovering from Saturday night. You know?
Oh yeah.
Not me. Not me.
I'm 2 coffees deep, so I'm always reminding people like if I'm strumming fast because like my coffee's kicking right now. You know? So, yeah, but that's the part of it. It's not responsibility. It's more of an appreciation for where I was put.
Yeah,
and understanding where he wants me to be, I guess.
Are there ever any times where you just try not to focus on the people and you just focus on like whatever song you're playing, make it directly a prayer from you to God?
Yeah, there's so I don't know. It call me weird or whatever.
Oh, you've called me weird like 4 times. So you're weird.
So there's when I hear a lot of like our songs, like especially when Jim was around, like I'd always tell him like, man, I hear it being sung this way, and I'm not talking like I'd hear it being sung like more country or like more rock, you know?
Yeah.
And Jim had some limitations on like his playing and stuff, so I kind of had to tame it down a little bit. But there was always something where now I feel like I can kind of do a little bit more of that, where like Amazing Grace, you know, like I'll lock in and be like reminding the group like this is a prayer for song. Like it's not about you. It's not about how loud you can be. It's like, we're just going to lock in. We know the song. We can close our eyes. You know, we can kind of get in that moment. And there's been more of those kind of moments where it's like, yeah, I can kind of forget about what's going on in the crowd. I can just feel the music. And I'm hoping, because again, based off my, you know, what I get feedback on, I'm hoping that's perceived by them, the people in the congregation, to be the same way. Like, let your guard down. I don't care if you're off key, just sing with us and kind of join in.
I think that was the beauty of all the retreats that we did, because I was also in the music team, not very good most of the time, but in the Spanish, I was on keyboard.
Yeah.
And then when I turned to English, I was guitar, and that one time it was bass, but thank you. You know, God, he provides, and he provided Rohi that day to take over, except when you got kind of fed up. But either way, appreciate it.
Yeah.
But I love those moments when it's praise and worship. Mm-hmm. That's where you kind of like, I feel that's when everybody sings the best, everybody plays the best, because everybody's doing it not necessarily to get that one person or, you know, for the crowd.
Yeah.
We're actually all focused on God. And you can definitely tell when a band is, or when a person, whoever it is, musician, because somebody wants to be the star, but it's just like, remember, we're all side characters. Jesus is the star. We need to remember that. But I think once you lock in on that, like I love how you said that we all close our eyes, we all know the songs, we need to just focus.
Yeah.
And for me, that reminded me of like youth group times where they're all like, Diego, it's just gonna be keyboard. And I'm like, crap. Like first I'm all tense, but then I get into it and I'm just like, oh, nice. You know, it's just like, I'm doing this for God.
Yeah.
And for people to get closer to God. Yeah. Man, it's such a beautiful ministry. I feel like it's not appreciated until it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things. Unless it's someone really bad and you're just like, I would appreciate it if he's gone. No, I'm kidding.
I've heard there's probably a few of those.
I've heard some of those too. I'm not going to say.
But no, that's the only thing, like having come. So the beauty of what Jim and I had was really more of, like you said, I don't think people realize, like, between the two of us, we had 100% showtime. Like, we were never both gone. And even then, like, we had kind of a rough understanding, like, okay, you're going to be off this week. Okay, I'm going to take next week. But even at that, we were gone maybe like 3 days out of the year.
Right.
And finding somebody with that much passion has been difficult. Like, you know, you look at our choir, and it's always a struggle to be like 100% attendance 100% of the time. But there's some beauty in that. I mean, it's like it gets everybody an opportunity to kind of take a little bit of a lead role or try something a little different. But like you said, that's the only tense part that I'm on right now, because I'm thinking like, okay, well, I have these like 2 or 3 days, and I've kind of expressed that to the group of like, I need some other leadership to step up. Like, you can't just say like, well, Rohi's there, you know, every Sunday, so I'm okay. Like, you guys are gonna, guys, like, I got these days I got to be gone.
Yeah.
And
you guys got to learn with a cappella. You guys got to learn that.
Well, it's funny, like in mass, again, it's all the parts you don't realize until you're in it, but like the cues, like every priest has a different cue. Yeah. Like, are you going to do that? Like this Sunday was comical about that. Like I went, it was Father Larry, and like you go before mass and go, hey, Father Larry, like told him like, we're going to do all the Latin parts. And he's like, okay, you guys got the Latin. Okay. And then like, you know, mass starts up and it's like the Kyrie, you know, and he's like looking at me and I'm like, no, Father, like that's you. Like you guys always do the Kyrie. And and I'm like, you know, so I'm kind of imagine like people staring at me like, because Father Larry is like sitting there staring at me like, okay, when are you going to start it up now? Yeah. And I'm like, God, no, that's the one we don't actually do. Like we've never done it, you know? Yeah. But so I've been trying to teach people like, that's the only like nerve wracking part, I guess, is like learning the cues and being like, okay, now we play this and then we transition this. Cause there's about, I think I was trying to do it in my head. There's like about 10 songs or like things that we do musically throughout the mass. Okay. And having to know like we do this, and then, oh, by the way, this Sunday we do an extra one, or, you know, like Lent, we don't do the Gloria. Right. And so there's those little nuances of like doing it for 20 years that I still am worried that I'm going to forget something like, oh crap, we forgot to do this.
Oh man, no, I'm in mass and I'm like, were we supposed to kneel? Why is everybody look like my height right now?
Yeah.
Man, what's our time right now?
You too.
Whoa, let's go for 5.
I'm just kidding.
You were telling me beforehand, and you've showed me before, I think I'm subscribed to it, your podcast with fellow council members.
Yeah, we got Jose Rodriguez, who's a fellow council member, and then Abel Rodriguez, who's now on planning commission.
Yeah. And you guys every Wednesday, right?
Every Wednesday, for the most part, we do a live broadcast, usually about 9:00. And it's about everything. Like this last week we did zombies. So, you know.
Nice. So, and I like that it's all City of Madera people. Mm-hmm. Because honestly, when I first watched the first episode, the first couple seconds of that, the first couple minutes of that episode,
truth is honesty.
Yeah. I'm all like, they're not even talking about the city. Like I thought it was going to be like a city podcast, but it's more of a like open, whatever you guys want to talk about.
That's kind of the battleground. I mean, it's like, I mean, like anything, you're finding an audience and you're trying to see like, hey, you know, what do people want to hear? And I think we kind of got to a point to where, for one, we understand it's practice. I mean, I think that was one of the things that helped guide my decision to do a lot of the things I did in politics is most people are terrified to get on in front of people and talk, right?
Oh yeah.
And just like be able to at a, you know, a whim, be able to talk about a certain topic. So we kind of approached our podcast in that way of just kind of like, okay,
let it flow.
Yeah. Let's just be honest. It's live, so there's no go backsies, you know, like
that's pretty intimidating.
Yeah. But we kind of have tamed back a little bit from the national stuff because there's enough Madera, like, you know, stuff to talk about.
Oh yeah.
That you can't necessarily get from your competitor, like, you know, the Madera Uncensored. But, you know, so yeah, we do that every week. It's great.
Man, it's called, what's the name of the podcast?
The Weekly Jargon.
The Weekly Jargon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
alien technology.
That's my specialty, you know.
We're going to have you back again so we can talk about alien
anything you want.
Yeah. You went to college?
What's that?
Did you go to college?
I did,
for engineering?
Computer science.
Computer science.
I went to Fresno State.
Nice.
Got my bachelor's there.
Pretty impressive, man.
Yeah.
Do you use it?
No.
It's funny.
Well, I mean, so like again, after I graduated, you know, I started working in the family business, and I was able to use a lot of what I knew to kind of modernize and, you know, to make the family business, because it's all about computers nowadays, anyways.
Yeah.
So I did write a bunch of programs that we use in our business even to today. But that was kind of the spark that took off with robotics, was like, oh, I get to use this stuff. And like, this is what I like.
Isn't that crazy how we don't know where one thing's going to lead to another thing? Yeah. And then once you're there, you're like, I would have never thought this is where I would have been. Yeah. Such a beautiful thing, man. I thought I was going to go in for psychology, but I'm like, no, I would just be a narcissistic podcaster. Doesn't matter how many people watch. It's funny because I would tell a lot of people, I guess it's confession time, man. This confession juice, man.
Do it.
I would always try to portray myself as someone that was very much into like psychology, philosophy. And I'm like, no, I just watched like 6 YouTube channels. But the thing is, these things stick in my brain.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be honest, I've given so many talks at the church, especially when I was at TOB and a little bit after. Right now, I haven't done it these last 2 months, but I've been giving monthly talks to my family, my cousins, the ones on the East Coast and the Central. Just basically like the basics of Catholicism, since everybody's been pulled away. Because after my time at TOB, I was in prayer with God, and he's all like, so, you know how you like talking to a bunch of strangers and you want to be on platforms where you talk to a bunch of strangers or people hear you? He's like, how about you talk to your family? And my response was like, no. He's like, no, you got to do it. And I'm like, crap. So, you know, I text all my cousins and I'm like, hopefully everybody thinks this is crap. And they're all like, no, it's a good idea. I'm like, crap. So now I have to come up with something. So I guess I reluctantly follow God's will. I think most of us do, right?
Yeah.
But I would say about 90% of the talks that I've ever given have been through YouTube, learning things on YouTube. But it's just like formatting it, structuring it. And I guess where I'm going with all of this is just like, I feel like a lot of degrees are not necessary. I have a buddy who works for PG&E. He's a manager, and he says, honestly, when I see someone have a degree, it doesn't necessarily show me that they're a professional or whatever. It shows me that they showed up, they turned in the work, and they're reliable.
Yeah.
And that's good enough.
Yeah. I mean, that's where, I mean, going down that rabbit hole, I struggle with, and getting into like the school system and teaching robotics and a lot of that, it was difficult because when you talk to people that are, you know, thinking about careers and they're like, hey, what do you want to, you know, the typical, like, what do you want to be? Every time I would hear one, I'd be like, well, you don't need a degree for that. Like, you just go do it. And they're like, what? Like, no, you just go do it. Like, what do you don't go to school for that. And it was like you said, it was hard because, you know, people would, I mean, we had a family friend that went to school, became an attorney, right? And was like, could be an attorney.
Yeah.
And only did it for a couple of years and gave up because he found out that's not what he wants to do. And then went into law enforcement, you know, and it's like, because he didn't want to be on one side, he wanted to be on the other side.
Yeah.
And I always feel like stories like that are the stories that youth need to hear where, you know what, do you want to be a doctor? Well, then go volunteer at the hospital, like get involved and kind of see like, is that really what you want to do? Because I think there's a misconception about a lot of these jobs that you think it's gonna be one thing and it's not. And the other thing we always talk about is like the lack of, like, there's nothing that, for instance, like there's no class you take to find out, do you want to be a politician? Do you know what it takes to be a politician? You don't even really need an education to be a politician, right? And these are kind of these, I would say, like jobs or traits of that you can be a career politician. Like you know what to say and what to do, and you have the right, like, you know, I would say path, but
if you make the right deals,
you make the right deals, you make the right decisions, like they can be very lucrative jobs. I mean, look at how much these people are worth, right? So there's a lot of those kind of things where I fight with the traditional school system of saying like, go to your 4-year college and get this degree. Well, by the meantime, that guy who was working for the last 4 years is actually further in his career than you are.
It was crazy. I worked for a call center for Bank of America like 10, 12 years ago. And I think what we're getting paid, which was great back then, was like 12, 13 bucks an hour. College dropout, like first semester. It was like third semester.
Yeah.
But college dropout. And it wasn't because I quit. It was because my grades were just terrible. And then there was this girl who had like her master's in whatever, and we're getting paid the same thing. Yeah. And I'm just like, that's insane, because she found out later it's not what she wanted to do. And while she's still trying to figure that out, while she needed to work, and I'm just like, it's scary. I think it's so scary that kids at 18 years old, it's just like, pick a career and you're going to do that forever. And that's what you're going to retire at. Yeah. And it's a lot of pressure, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think it's the battle that people have nowadays. And again, with the school system that I have to struggle with is saying like, okay, like you're saying, like, I want to do philosophy and okay. But nobody's on the other side saying like, Diego, by the way, there's only like 5 job openings and there's 1,000 of you getting this degree. Like, right. And I think it's a negative way to look at it. I get it. But that's, I think, the reality that people to say like, by the way, Diego, if you, I know it's not maybe the one you want to do, but if you were to do this one, there's only 10 people doing it and there's 100 positions that they're looking for and they're going to pay you more and you're going to be like able to get whatever you want because they can't find this person. Like there's so many of those careers that are out there that people don't even know about. Like they're just, it's not even a topic at school to be like, hey, go be this particular, field.
Yeah. One thing that, man, sorry, now that you brought up schools, I'm just like, there's so many things that
2 hours to go
that I'm so pissed off about school. For real. Now as an adult, I'm like, dude, school never taught me about like DMV. It never taught me about how to do taxes. It never taught me about how to manage like credit cards or money,
100%.
And now like in my late 20s and 30s, I'm just like, why am I barely learning this stuff? Like I've gotten like some criticism because I give my kid an allowance. She really doesn't do much, and it's a part-time job for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I pay someone, it's called child support, but I call it like daycare. No, I'm kidding. No, I give her an allowance and it's only $20 a week. Yeah. And it's more for her understanding, like if I want something, there's consequences. If I want something immediately compared to if I want something long-term, because the agreement is, I'll buy you everything that you need. Everything you want, you can get from your allowance, birthday money, or whatever, you know? But yeah, you got all that. And she's been making decisions of like, because she's really into anime right now. She's like, I really want that manga. But I also want this game for this. Oh, it's my friend's birthday and I want to get her this. And I'm just like, you're 11. Well, I started this when she was 9.
Yeah.
And now she realizes like, no, I'll save for that. Like she's a lot more firm in her decisions. No, I'm going to save for that. I just won't spend this week or something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, yes, most of the education should come from the home, but when we send them somewhere for 8 hours, we expect them to come back knowing something, right?
And I would say that's, I remember.
Sorry, Alex, he's a teacher.
That's okay.
No, I was like that.
I remember, I mean, in 5th grade, the teacher we had us balancing a checkbook, and basically I can't really remember how we acquired the money. There was some system about how like we would earn our credits, but we would have to like balance our checkbook, and then she would have like snacks and stuff that you could spend those credits on.
Right.
But like this was 5th grade. Like we're like making active financial decisions of like, okay, I'm going to buy this cookie and then I got to like, keep a balance sheet of where I'm at. And she would check it every once in a while. And you talk about like people today and they're like, checkbook, like what's a checkbook, and balancing your finances and like knowing how much money you got left. And it's like, oh, that's kind of like, that's a college topic. It's like, no, I was learning this in grade school, And I agree, like those kind of things are where, when we talked about where we are in an economic standpoint of like why we have more credit card debt than we've ever had ever. And why people in their 20s and 30s are like just financially like broke, it's because they were never taught about like, how to be responsible with their finances. And like my kids, like, cause they know, like I play around with like stocks and stuff, and my kids will like, cause we do it on Robinhood and stuff. So it's either green or red, right? So they know their colors. Then they're like, we talk about it. Like in the beginning, it was like, oh, what's red? And it's like, red's bad. Like, we don't want to be red. Like that means stock's going down, but it was a conversation about like, what's a stock and how do you buy shares and what's a share? And it's things that like are just not taught to kids. And I always feel like now, like some of our like, coworkers and stuff I have, like I'm like educating them. Like I'm like their parent of like saying like, hey, you should be taking like your money and investing in like, putting it away for retirement. Why want retirement? I want to buy my car and I want to buy this. And it's like, dude, like you're young enough that in 30 years, you can have like $1 million in your bank account. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
$1 million?
I think it's two things. One, the Instagram lifestyle, trying to keep up with the Joneses.
100%. Yeah.
And well, I guess this goes with the second one. It's just people don't know or have the discipline to live below their means.
Yeah.
And I just recently started this is like in my late 20s, where I live below my means. And I'm like, all of a sudden I have money. All of a sudden I have a savings. My debt is either paid off or being paid off. But it sucks. I mean, it's good for all the YouTubers that taught me this, but it sucks that it's something that I wasn't taught when I was a lot younger, when I was making big financial decisions, like buying my first car, buying my home, buying all these things.
So I will say we just had a conversation about this, and the topic came about because he was like, "Oh, you're rich," and I always hated that term, like you're rich.
You're like, it's wealthy.
Well, no, and so we got on the topic, and I asked him, so what does rich mean to you? Like, what is that term when you say that guy is rich? What does that mean to you? And I always say that to people because people have a really misconception about being rich. They think rich is just, you just spend money. Like you buy everything you want. And I'm like, no, that's actually furthest from the truth. Like if you think I have money, it's not because I'm spending it. It's because I'm conserving it, you know? And, we talked about things like, cause like I said, he's on this kick about a car. And I'm like, well, if you buy the car and you spend, let's say 30,000 on it today, tomorrow it's already worth less. Right. So you're putting all of this effort into something that's already going down in value, So we could talk about investments, and we're talking about stocks, and we're saying like, interest, and how like these little things that you can kind of do to become rich, which just means to me, like rich just means like, okay, if my car broke down tomorrow or I needed a set of tires, I'm not running the credit card unable to pay that debt.
Yeah.
So rich is just is the ability to pay my debt in full that I have acquired. That's it. So I don't know. So it's a deeper conversation.
No,
they think it just means like, oh yeah, you want that camera, you just buy it today. That's it.
Yeah. And that's why I don't like things like Affirm, which this camera is currently being paid off of.
Yeah.
Because it's like the buy now, pay later kind of thing. But then the buy now is cool. I got it. And I don't have to pay till this month. And then that month comes and you're like, crap, I forgot about this.
Yeah.
And you do that enough times, you've like accumulated so much so many things and so many payments that you get your check. It's not even your money anymore. It's like you have to pay all these people. But it's what helped me a lot with my finances is learning how to pay myself first. I know everybody has a bunch of rules and a bunch of, methods, but it's just like, well, like, share for me. Like, let me cut that away. And that's the only way I was able to build my savings, because I was just like, if it's the first thing that I do, everything else, okay, it's bills and then whatever money. And it's pretty sad when I see like people around retirement age, I work with a bunch of them and they have like absolutely nothing. So they retire, but they're still going to like apply for a part-time job afterwards.
Which is not bad. I mean,
my dad does that. He's retired. He doesn't need to, but he gets bored. That's why.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I feel like, and again, that goes back to the misconception about wealth, where they think like at some point you just don't work and you just kind of sit at home and you taking trips all day. And I'm like, no, maybe to some degree, but working is good. Like there's nothing wrong with work. Maybe you can maybe work to enjoy it, work a little less,
or work on something that you really like.
Yeah.
Like during COVID, I built that bookshelf and that desk and then this crappy thing.
It shows.
Yeah. That's why I'm all like, God, you did not want me to be a carpenter. Got it. Yeah. And the other thing, like going biblical, I think about the debt. Like I don't want to have any debt when I die, because I just feel like that's time in purgatory. I don't know, especially if I never pay that person back,
Yeah.
Luckily, I have life insurance. Don't tell my kid. But I've never liked the idea of owing someone something. Sure, I owe a firm for this camera a little bit, but when it comes to like people, it always bugged me. Like that was like my next, time I get income, it's like to pay them off or get a portion of that cut off, because it just sucks being, I don't know. I've always felt like gross about that.
So we talk about that on the other podcast, but I won't go too deep into it.
Oh yeah, dude. But guys, check out the other podcast.
But so that has to do with a a deeper understanding about generational wealth. It's something that's been completely lost in this country.
Yeah.
And, as a parent, you have in the back of your mind that I think in society, we've been taught you want to have your kids to have a better lifestyle than you did, sure. Right? I think I've heard that from a lot of people, but understanding that term comes actually more from generational wealth, not from buying everything your kids want. Like I'm not buying the newest iPhone because they want it, because that's better than my lifestyle. What I'm doing is I'm putting money away so that instead of like when they want to buy a car or buy their first house, the money is already there. That's called generational wealth.
Understood.
And it's understanding that as a family unit, that your wealth is their wealth. So they should be rejoicing in anything that you do. So if you decide to buy this new camera, but you can show at least there's a generational wealth, meaning like, look, we're going to make more money from this and we're going to grow our pool a little bit more, then that's a good decision. But if dad's just buying the camera because he just wants a new camera, then that's actually not a good thing. It's taking away from our generational wealth. And again, the generational part is to say that, like, again, how much money are you being left from your parents, and how much money do you plan to leave for your child? Children, and that could be just in this, maybe it could be in a small scale, like maybe like, when like your parents pass, maybe you don't really have but a small inheritance, but when you pass, maybe it's a much larger inheritance. Maybe it's tenfold or so forth. Exactly. And, to the point to where even if you started with nothing, even if you started and you say, like, we came from the poorest family, we had nothing, but at some point, you do what you should do, which is acquire a home, and over the next 30 years, pay that home off and not sell it for profit, but hand that down to your child who now has no mortgage payment, but is now retaining that mortgage payment to now maybe get a second house, create wealth for the next. And that's snowball effect where you say 3 generations from now, you guys are wealthy. Yeah. You're far wealthier, even though if it means you didn't really make that much money or more money than dad made, more of my money is going to the generational pot.
Wow, man. I've never had it explained to me that way.
Sorry.
I hate that, man. I hate speaking to you because you make me think.
It's the drink that you gave me.
Did you like it?
It was good. Delicious. Good. Hopefully you get sponsored by them so you can get all your.
Oh, man. No, I think they'll charge me tariffs right now since it's a show in Mexico. But we'll definitely smuggle some in through a bus. I'll get your bottle next time we go. Okay. I've never had generational wealth explained to me that way. I just thought like somebody made a really good decision at one point and now it profited like 4 generations because of all that money they've accumulated.
Yeah.
And, my thoughts would also go to like the richest. So it's like, they don't have to, like, at least when I was younger, they don't have to work. They just go party or go travel or go do all these crazy things that they want to do, be on social media, blow up, buy a Ferrari, and then just buy Lamborghini the next day. And, but that gets old. That gets boring. That gets like, what am I here for? What's my purpose? That's what at least drives me. Not that I've ever been like super wealthy, but I have had a moment where I'm like, if I played my cards right, I don't have to work for the next 4 years, But then I'm just like, well, what do I do with my life? And what I did is I blew it off. So now I learned. So if I'm ever in that situation again, it's just like, I have become a lot more conservative due to that experience.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking a lot more about my kids' experience, because not only like of the things that I have, but also like, well, if I pay this place a certain amount every month, when I die, she's going to be set.
Yeah.
She's going to be set if she plays her cards right too. But I always thought like I heard this quote somewhere too. It's like, nobody thinks about how to make $1 million, but everybody thinks about how to spend $1 million. Like, you can easily think of so many places where I would spend $1 million and it's still not enough.
Yeah.
But
that's kind of where you see the generational wealth fall apart, is like, you'll see like maybe you have like a really strong, like one generation that just made just an abundance of money, but because that mentality wasn't taught to the next generation, or it got watered down a little bit of, like you said, like, hey, look, dad works 7 days a week. The guy will work like 4. And then the next generation's like, hey, you don't even need to work 4. Once grandpa dies, like, you can just sit at home all day long.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much after that to realize that generation is now going to burn all their money.
Yeah.
And then they're going to repeat that cycle all over again. So that's, again, the if you want that generational wealth to keep growing, you have to understand that pot is not a pot of that like, okay, now I get to a certain point and I just spend it. It's like, no, we're just going to keep this pot growing forever. Like, and again, understanding like as a family tree grows, like there's a reason for that. Cause like maybe you, instead of having the one kid, maybe you got two. So now that inheritance has to split. So you can't just live off of dad's single house that he paid for. Like at some point, two houses.
And I'm sure every once in a while you're going to get a prodigal son that's going to want to spend it all, but
100%.
It's all right. I got a fat calf back there. I wanted to mention something that you made me think about, but then I started paying attention to you again and I forgot. Does that ever happen to you? Like, you're like,
what are you talking about?
Like, generational wealth, all that good stuff. I don't know. But I'm glad that you brought that up because I feel like finances, people don't talk about their finances.
And it's biblical.
Is it?
I mean, of course, in the Bible. I mean,
hold on, let me just like.
I think there's enough references to money in the Bible to and
to
understand about like how to spend it and what to do with it and.
About burying. I remember
burying your money.
Somebody buried their money because they were scared that they were going to waste it, and then when they had to bring it back to the master, he's like. Give your money to someone who actually knows how to invest it.
Yeah, you could have at least gotten interest on it. I mean, and that's kind of like thing. I mean, like it's the interest thing is it's in the Bible. It talks about. I'm an interest guy. Like I'm not the guy that likes to bury it because I understand that the minute you bury money, you've lost your wealth because of inflation.
Yeah.
But I love interest because it's like it's based off that generational wealth. Like you keep putting in the pot, and by the way, that pot grows naturally by itself, and it grows more the more you put it in. It's like. It gets addicting for you. Just like, I just want to shove as much into that pot.
Yeah. And then you're like, how much will this be in 30 years? And you're just like, that's insane. Yeah. This $1 became like $30,000. And this time frame. Why do you think we're not educated about these things? Or are we, but we're just too dumb to really realize it? Because one thing that pisses me off every couple months before April is like, because I am way too cheap to pay someone to do my taxes. And when I do my taxes, I'm like, I should have paid someone to do my taxes.
Which Jose does, by the way.
Oh, good to know.
Little plug.
All right.
Yeah, that's right.
But things like that, like how to manage your money. So, going back to putting our tinfoil hats back on.
Easy tinfoil hat on this one. So if you go back to the kings in the times of that generation, when we had rulers over us, the ruler wants the people to be dumb and basically poor. Right. Because if I'm a ruler and all of a sudden, Diego gets an education and has money, then you stop listening to me. And then once my village stopped listening to me, I don't have any power anymore. I'm no longer the king of my kingdom.
Right.
So that same premise is still there. It's, we have to keep people. I hate to say like the educational system is a distraction, but we have to keep people thinking they're getting smarter, but we're only going to teach about certain things because if you become like financially secure to where you're like, dude, I don't even need to work anymore. Right. Yeah. Like if that's like, maybe you're just getting enough interest to where like you can live off of it and you can teach your kid how to live off of it. Imagine a society that just says like, I don't even have to work anymore. Like an entire society that just has enough interest in the bank. Like it would fall apart. Like So there has to be these ups and downs. That's why there has to be things like capital tax, you die, inheritance tax takes half of what you get. It's like, wait a minute, you didn't do anything. Why are you taking half of my money? Because they need that reset. They can't have you just constantly growing and bettering and getting to this self-sufficient lifestyle.
If I think our ego, whoever's in charge, because I'm not that guy that's like, I don't have that much power yet. I think if our egos were put aside and we allowed people to grow, so, okay, now finance isn't a burden. Because one of the things that I would ask a bunch of friends like that, like, I don't know what to do with my life or career.
Yeah.
I would ask them like, okay, so you had all the money in the world. You paid off all your bills. You got all the houses you want. You got your cars and you traveled everywhere. All that's done. What would you do with your time? And then they're like, huh. And some of them know right away. Oh, I would do this. I'll be like, you can still do that without all that money.
Yeah.
Because most of the things that we want to do are pretty simple. Or, that calling that we feel. Like for me, it was like, oh, I want to create a retreat that helps people get this. Obviously, there's like thousands of retreats.
Sure.
But I wanted it specified in a certain thing. And I'm all like, once I kind of realized like, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to lead people to Christ this way. I'm like, I don't need a bunch of money to do that. I can just start doing that.
Yeah. And I think that, again, that's the, I won't call it an addictive nature, but like, if I think of all the good things I want to do,
right.
Like, and I want to say like selfless, because I'm not talking about like, I want to take care. I don't need a new car. I'm not the kind of person that's trying to buy the newest whatever. So if I was to say in my mentality of like, okay, like you're saying, like, I want to go help Holy Family Table. Like, how can we make them self-sufficient, right? They need this much funds a month, right? Okay, well, if I put enough money in the bank and I had interest coming that I could take care of them, right? Yeah. Now they don't have to have that. And again, trying to play off this snowball effect of saying, like, imagine if as a community, I know we kind of do this in the church when we take collections and whatnot, but if imagine if as a community we're able to put into this interest-bearing pot, and through that interest pay into some of these things that we have going on, reducing those costs, and just kind of allowing it to grow to a point to where maybe we could be a church that just lives off interest. Like, we don't have to keep taking a collection. Obviously we would, because again, you want to keep building that pot and doing more and giving us that opportunity to sacrifice something. Yeah. You would realize that it doesn't take a whole lot of time to become self-sufficient. Like, you can run the numbers backwards and say, like, okay, maybe they need, I don't know, $100,000 a year to run the Holy Family Table. Okay, that means 4% interest. We need this much money in the bank. Like, I'm sure it's very attainable. Yeah, you know what I mean. And especially with how big our community is. It is. On Palm Sunday, you're going to see how big it is. Ash Wednesday, you definitely saw it. I didn't even want to get my ashes because everybody was there. Yeah. But yeah, that's a very good point. So I think that's where, when you say, why are we not there? That's the confusion part. It's like, we should all be there. You know, when you think about just like something like home ownership, right? Yeah. Like, you buy a home, 30 years, you paid it off. Well, how many generations of 30 years and paying it off have we gone through, and people still don't own their homes? Like, they don't. They're just still paying forever and into eternity, because what do they get tricked into? Oh, refinance. You get a little money out. You keep paying on the debt. Now you're back into the hole again of, crap, I owe somebody money again. You know? Yeah. So that is something that I definitely think I agree with you, that my drive and my lifestyle is to try and be as debt free as I can, self-sufficient as I can. Yeah. Like the joke when you said, like, how much is a dozen eggs? I don't know. I got chickens. Nice. Like, yeah. I have a couple chickens. They put me, I got strawberries. I got, fruit. I'm not fully self-sufficient, but like, man, you're way more ahead than most. So my brother's got chickens, and when they get overloaded with eggs, they bring them here, and I'm like, hell yeah, I'm gonna get some real but see, that's good nutrition. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm even excited because I know when I eat these, I'm gonna get like the most the natural nutrients that I can. Yeah, they say the eggs you buy at the store are 30 days old already. Yeah, jealous. I'm eating an egg that's like 3 days old at best. 3 hours old. Yeah, exactly. But that's why I'm always confused by society. It's like, okay, we argue about, the price of eggs. You tell me somebody doesn't have a piece of property that we can just throw like tons of chickens on there, and then like just have an organization that's just feeding these chickens, and guess what? Now you have all the eggs you want. Yeah, man. And even with your robotics, we can make a robot that feeds these chickens, 100%. Yeah, 100%. And do you think that's why there's so much red tape in cities with like allowing things or all these permits and restrictions? Yeah, restrictions are, again, all of these things are laws, and all these things are just a means to keep the next guy from being able to do it. That's all it is. Yeah. When you think of like construction, and when you think about anything, it's like the guy that's doing it says, well, I don't want Diego to do it. So by the way, make this much more difficult for him to start up. Yeah. Because it's all about the startup. Because usually once you're in business, you're kind of good. Like to go to the next whatever law change is not too bad. But the idea is to say from somebody from day one, go from zero to being in business now, it's just not, it's cost prohibitive, and that's all the name of the game is being cost prohibitive. I think it took me about 5 years to get to this little where we're at just for this podcast, man. Yeah. Like, you see it on YouTube and you're just like, oh, I can do that. I can just talk into a microphone. Yeah. But then you forget about the cameras on Affirm. And then you forget about like the software. You forget about the editing, the time that it takes for that. People actually making sure that things are running right while you're on the pod. Like,
it's so hard to get started. But once you're like, now I'm just like, oh, what time are we meeting? At this time. All right, just be here at this, and then we're good. Just a couple clicks.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much restrictions, and it's kind of sad because it would make everything better. But because of greed and ego, what are we going to do?
Well, I mean, I think that's kind of what religion is supposed to play into. It's supposed to at least get us in a mentality of like separating ourselves, because I mean, religion's about a greater cause, right? I mean, we're supposed to be, it's not about me. It's about helping everyone else. It's about, moving that goalpost for society. Yeah. It's just the human nature of us kicks in at some point and destroys it all. Like it's just what we do.
When you were talking about like, there's plenty of us in our parish, so we can like make this happen. That way it's self-sufficient. But everybody thinks, at least I'll be honest, I've thought this. I mean, in multiple times, like, why do I need to give more? I know they make more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I'm going to just give this much because, or like, oh, well, I mean, I'm kind of short. I know I can give up this $20, but like, I really want to go get boba after, or something.
Yeah. Well, and that's just kind of that pass the buck idea. It's like, it's, you see somebody else putting in the pot. So you're like, I don't need to put in today.
It's enough.
Yeah, it's enough, and instead of like, if we all, like they say, if we all gave like $100 today, oh my gosh, like,
oh man,
I'd be so much further ahead.
Dave dreamed about that. I'm all like, there's 350 million people in the USA. Let's cut that in half. Just say adults at work, right? They're like, what if every day everybody just gave $1 to like, let's hear in America. It was just a dumb thought. And I'm like, man, we'd all be pretty well off.
Yeah.
Except the guy that had to give the $1 when he's in the negative, but
But I mean, but that's going back to what you're where we're eventually going to get to as far as the corporations, is that you are giving that $1 and it's just moving up and up and up the chain. And all you're hoping is that the person that is accumulating all these dollars at some point is doing something good with it. Right. Yeah. Like, I mean, like when you look at Elon, you're looking at like, Bezos, like you're hoping that with all the billions they're acquiring, they're going to do something good for society, which, Elon's about space and space exploration and moving that part of society forward.
I feel like he's thinking like centuries ahead of us, but
because he's still got to run a business. So I know he has to look at things as a business, but he's a good model of when you say like, imagine somebody that would actually do the good because he wants to do good instead of saying do the good because of corporate greed, because your cost of eggs is only because of corporate greed. It's not because it costs an egg that much to get it to your table. Right. You go talk to any farmer and they'll tell you, well, the egg cost, I got paid 20 cents for that egg, but you're paying $3 for it. Like, well, what happened in the middle? Well, that's just corporate greed. So again, that's where I think when you look at people like him, they are somewhat good role models, because it would be like you're saying, that same mentality of like, okay, here's where we want to be. Like for us as a church, we want to, have a nice church, and we want to have something that like maybe a good sound system, basic needs. So you're if you kind of had that mentality of like, okay, we're going to put our money knowing it's going to go to something good. I think we would move a lot further, but I think that's always been the struggle. Sorry.
No, you're good, man. No, it's about time that we wrap up too, man, because I'm definitely want to have you back on, because there's so many conspiracies I'm going to just look up just to like get you going.
Hit me.
Just for good.
I love them.
Just for good YouTube.
Just be ready, because it's going to be a journey.
Yeah.
I'm down for that.
Alex. Oh, next time we'll get a working microphone for Alex. Yeah. That was the last minute thing.
Sorry.
Yeah, it was one of the chords was being weird. I just getting you one. Affirm. But thank you so much for coming.
Pleasure.
Thank you for everything that you're doing for our city, for being the Doge of Madera, and for selling guns. I'm sure you don't get that a lot.
No, I don't. No, thank you though. Yeah.
No, at least you definitely educated me on guns, because I told you how terrible my first experience was with me handling guns, and you told me like, oh, it's pretty common, and the way that it needs to be looked at, like. So I really appreciate everything that I had to give today, but let's go ahead and finish with a prayer. All right. In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, we thank you so much for everything that you do for us, for everything that you give us, for everything that we don't see and don't appreciate. We ask that you continue to help us see what it is that you want us to do, the greater purpose for everything, whether if it's at our home, at our business, or at a city, state, country level. Please just, I ask that you give us the graces that we need to do your work properly. And I pray that you continue to help our community here in Madera grow, to fall deeper in love with you, starting with each individual heart, and let that show through our works. We thank you and we love you, and we pray this in Jesus' name with the intercession of Mary. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.